agents and brokers for many, many years. Okay. And I've been teaching since 1990 until now, non-stop. AII will be engaging me every year. And if at the moment you want to want to tax into this CAR insurance or machine breakdown insurance or all the renewable engineering, you can find me at AII. But the only sad thing is that you need to pay 1,200 ringgit to AII per person. Okay. But the slides are all different from here. Now let's dive into what are we going to learn today. Basically, is to understand the scope of the CAR insurance. Scope means the policy coverage, the clauses, how you sort aside the informations, and what to extend it to your marketers. And then beside that, you need to also undertake to do certain things. Later on, I just show you the sections. Then you'll understand that you need to learn the key components. As you know, contractor always consists of two policies. One is on the material damage, that is what is covered to the works. The second part is basically talking about the public liability section. So there are two sections. In fact, there are three sections. And third section is not commonly asked for. And anyway, most of the insurance company in Malaysia, they do not have authority to underwrite the third section. So they have to refer to their reinsurance for approval. Okay. So that's the reason why, just only for your information only. So identify common risks in common construction insurance. You find that most people think that everything is covered, and they are true. Anything that is not excluded in the construction or risk exclusions or in the conditions, you find the policies pay everything. So therefore, the policy has now been extended or widened by including a lot of excluded extension, not a cover, exclusion, and also limitations of extension. Limitation means put a sub-limit, okay? So basically, the other thing that you will know of is people ask you every time when you prescribe a claims, you will refer back to the marketers for support. And I think most of the time you do, no problem, because most of the marketers are very exposed in this aspect. Okay. The only thing is that you need to assist them in terms of the getting the documents, assisting them by being the intermediaries between the insured and the insurers. Okay, that's the only aspect. The other thing that we will talk about is risk survey. I will use the word risk management is a risk survey. So most people don't undertake risk survey, and I don't do risk survey at all until sometimes it reaches about 50%, 75%, or even 90% completed. Then I will do a talk and also walk through the. After have done all this work already, then we explain to the client what are the coverage when we have secured account. So for those accounts which is virtually large accounts, usually I have to do a talk before we have just secured the business, because we need to let the insured know what are the concern, especially for breaches of conditions, breaches of warranties, and also maybe overlook to inform the insurance of a claim, something like that. Okay, let's dive into these 8 items. So we will talk about this introduction of CR, the scope, policy structures, and then the clauses. The biggest section will be the endorsement, which is called clauses. As you know, the wording had been born before I joined insurance industry. That is maybe in the 50s or 60s or so. They were actually there already. So the wording until today have not changed. Okay, so the only sad thing is that now what they put is they put in a lot of clauses from the person who drafted this policy, which is the Munich Re. It's a reinsurance company. Then we touch base on the policy period, because a lot of people make mistakes saying that the policy period cover everything. And once you highlight to you, you'll find that it is not so. So this is my role to explain to you. Then we touch a bit on the risk management and loss prevention that will ensure that the claims will not happen, you see. So most of the time you see we will charge a rate about less than 20 cents, less than 50 cents, something like that. So therefore, we cannot expect one claim. And most of the time when we were writing risks in my younger days, we have a lot of claims. But towards the end, I hardly see any claims because no chance to see claims. Okay. So how you handle it is basically is to assist the client from the day one, so that they know what is the risk. So being aware of the risk, they will take care and ensure that it will be mitigated or at least reduce the exposure. Okay. So the last part, we'll talk about the claims. And then finally, you as an agent, how is your role to assist the customer? Let's dive into the ice-breaking question, which is you will have to answer for me. Can you just put into the checkbox, what are the differences between a CR and the ER insurance? Just put in chat box. What, for those who are more experienced, just type into the chat box, yeah? So that I have some understanding of where you stand, you see? For those more experienced, can you assist those who are not so experienced so that at least all of us here learn? We have about 76% here, including me and Ika. Yeah. Just type in what do you think is the differences between CR and ER. Just give me 1 or 2 points, basing on understanding. So when do you use a contractor all risk policy and when do you use erection all risk policies? Anyone? Just type in. Don't need to be long, just type it in will do, just to make sure that I know where you stand. Yeah. Anyone? You can also unmute yourself, I think, and then you can speak also can. It's up to you. Anyone? Yes, differences between CR and ER. What's the difference? Yeah, I just want to know what do you know the differences between CR and ER? Yeah. Only come across CR but yet to expose on ER. Thank you very much for your honest feedback. Yeah. Okay. Now, since everyone have no idea, it's good that we will share with you. Okay. So the first thing that is going into is the differences is basically number one, the sum insured. Basically, if you look carefully the contract value, you just find a total value amount. But in fact, you look at it inside, you find that about most of them for CER, the center of the works is mainly on civil works, building materials, and so forth, and hardly any mechanical electrical installation. Taking, for example, a house, the house that you are staying in, what are the electrical items that you see? Just only the plug point only, full stop, isn't it? You don't even have a fan or nothing at all, okay? So just only the installation of the plug point only, okay? But you find that most of the claims during the early stages, there are many losses from theft of cables. See, as you all know, so all these claims are basically they cannot attack all your M&E. Basically, they attack only on your cables. They cut all the cables. And we have seen claims about 300,000 is submitted to the insurers. How can one person submit a claim of 300,000 in one day? So therefore, when we quiz the loss adjuster, the cost loss adjuster quiz the insured, it turns out that maybe this is done over a period of maybe 1 month. Okay, so 1 month, let's take it about 4 weeks. Okay, let's say 30 days. So for as far as insurance loss adjuster is concerned, they will use 3 days as one loss incident. So 30 days divided by 3 is equal to 10 incidents, meaning that one incident is considered as one deductible or one claim. One claim means there were minus one excess. So now 10 claims, the minus 10 excess. Say, for example, your excess is 10,000 ringgit. So 10 excess means 100,000 ringgit. So your excess now is 100,000. So your 300,000 minus 100,000, that is how they will do it. However, if you have submitted a police report, then they use that as considered as one event. Okay, see now the difference with police report and without police report. Next we go to is basically is the EAR. Basically, you look at erection or is the word here is called installation, assembly, and erection of only machinery. You hardly see any civil work. If you do, it is only two things. One is you need to lay the piling for the heavy machinery so that it won't slide, it won't be sinking, or they put a flat slab to call the foundation work. So they build a foundation so that they put the machine on top of that. So the amount of this is basically very minimal. Okay. So the second point that show the differences between CR and ER basically is testing and commissioning. As you know, CR policies, you don't find the word testing commissioning in the policy. You mean to say the CR policy don't have testing commissioning like tall buildings? They need to test the firefighting system. They need to test the aircon system. They need to test all the PA system. But that testing is not really a test. In fact, I will call it a cold test. Cold test means you switch on, switch off. Just like you go to IKEA, you buy a lamp, just switch on, it works. That is what they call cold testing. So I'm referring to you is hot testing. Like let's say yesterday, I just went to down south. I was on a trip down south to do training. And what happened is that one of the clients is called Mami. Mami was my client, back in the 80s and 90s, So what happened is that we have seen how the mummy me is made. They have go through a lot of sequences and section, and one of the sections is going to hot bath, and another section going to waxing. So the Maggie mee that you're taking now is all with wax. Okay, so go through. That's why it can retain. You can eat the Maggie mee after 1 year, no expiry date one. Although they put the expiry date. So it's the rule is that they will try to make it as low wax as possible. Okay, but the testing here is that they need to run through the test, making sure that every mummy in a packet will be the same. So if let's say the machine comes in, it must have the same quality, same specifications, and so forth. So how do they do this? They have to run through a test. This test will run for many, many days. Okay, in the policy for erection oris, you find there is a hot testing cover up to 4 weeks. In the case of a CR, you don't even see the word hot testing or cold testing. However, if you have a policy like I did one in Malacca, it's called Zengi. It's the largest glass factory in Malaysia. Okay, I did that because all the glasses you find in TRX, which I insure TRX also, is all placed inside there. Okay, this Zingi actually built the building, then the machinery. So I have to do the building as well as the machinery. So how do I insure? So sometimes you have to stretch your head, isn't it? Whether you use a CR or you use a ER, there's no. So we actually have a hybrid. It's just like a car driving with hybrid, meaning that we have a CR as well as the ER. So the sum is all laid out. Okay, that is the only two differences. However, you find that there are also different policies being issued. Okay, so for contractor oris, you find that generally, if you look carefully under the BQ, those who have done a lot of CR know what I'm talking. It's called bill of quantities. You don't know means you break down the sum insured, which I will show you a slide shot afterward. That they will show more 80% is more on silver and 20% more 20 of mechanical electrical, such as let's say KR118, which I insured also. See what happened is that this electrical firefighting system, water system, and all the other security system are all forming only less than 20%. The main structure, piling, and everything is more than 80%. Usually that has been the case. That is how I will look at it. Number two is for erection oris, you find it's the reverse. 90% of them are basically erections and like machineries installation. So they will test this machinery in the factory and tested many, many times, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And in the case of power plant, you see these Malakoff and all those, they are tested for 6 months. So the cover is not short. And most of the claims under erection oris comes from testing period. Okay, they can have explosion, they can have breakdown. All these are covered. Okay, so these are something that you need to bear in mind that the coverage is slightly different. So now you know sum insured, testing, and the way the sum insured is set is this way. Okay, if you look at the policy wording, you find that most of the CR are more related this way: groundwork, building, roadworks, very basically. But they can also change it to ER if they want to, because there's a combination. But in the case of ER, you find that mostly it's in the factory, whether house in the roof or outside in the open. Okay, like conveyor belt system, transformer, storage tank, all are outside. Most of the inside are basically is factory, built machineries, line machineries, and so forth. So basically, it is just give you a flavor. So don't limit yourself just on CR because 90 people ask you ER, there's no problem because we have done this before, and most of all these insurers, even Berjaya, have done this before. The underwriters are well versed. Okay, just seek help from the marketers and then escalate all the information for them. Next, let's dive into the 8 sections. Let's see whether there are any questions from the floor before I move on. Okay, there is none. Okay, let's move on. So there are 4 items we I need to walk through because the time frame is only 3 hours and we have about 154 slides. Okay, so no joke. Okay, let's dive inside. Now, the insured parties are mainly main contractor employers. So these are the 2 parties many people knows. But you'll be surprised. In fact, most of the time, as an agent, most of the policy comes from the contractor asking you for quotation. All depends what type of contract they are talking about. But when I deal with BBCC, if you know about BBCC, this is the one that is done by EcoWorld and also by the UUDA and also the EPF. They are all joint. I took the phase 2, 3, 4, and 5, whereas NSIG took the phase 1. Now, all these things, these are people that they want to be the principal control. And usually they have to do it because the The brokers that broke this business work make sure that the employee get one policy. That policy, even subcontractors no need to buy. It's everything all clamped together already. Okay, so that is what they call sometimes a principal control policy. Sometimes they call it main contractor will do it. Okay, it depends on how you look at it. So let's look at those projects, which is called Pan Borneo, Suki, and all those. Those were the days it's done by the what we call Project Development Partner (PDP). Nowadays, it's changed due to the Madani government. It's changed to go called JKR. So basically, PDP means the principal submitting body will submit all documents. Then they don't do the work. They appoint contractors. Okay, and the contractors will appoint subcontractors. There could be many subcontractors. So that's the reason why never put in the name of the subcontractors. Just mention the main contractor name, full stop, and the employer's name, full stop. Okay. So basically, in respect of larger project, you find that they have property management company, and of course, banks are also asking to put their name there. Normally, we don't have put their name as the insured because they are not supposed to be there. So you can put in a clause to put them as loss payee clause or just a clause to mention the mortgagee clause. Okay. Ultimately, we don't pay to the mortgagee anyway when there's a claim. We only pay to the principal and the contractor, right? So that's the reason why we put them as loss payee. Make your job easier. So when there's a claim, we don't have pay to the bank pay back to you, something like that. So that is the issue. Okay. So the other thing that your point of view is when you do as an agent, you normally deal with main con or subcontractors. If you're dealing with main con, generally speaking, you have a bigger picture of the risk. But when you do a subcon, you only do those work which is a minor. Unfortunately, for major works, your rates is more lucrative, more better, bigger rates, bigger access. But when you deal with subcontractors, usually they take a very small jobs, the sum insured is lower, and the access are usually tendencies can become lower. Unfortunately, most of the claims come from the subcontractors as opposed to main contractor. Unfortunately, so because of their way of handling is they do not have what they call project management, whereas the main contractor are usually managed by the project management. So you just put there on all subcontractors of all tiers. This is the normal way we put it, but you can use other way. But subcontractors of all tiers means cover everything, 100%. However, one thing is missing is called the principal also appointed architects, engineers, design team, consultants, supervisory bodies, and suppliers. They are here from time to time. Usually, they will meet every 2 weeks for discussion on the progress of the works, issues on claims, and so forth. These are the issues that we face most of the time. So therefore, ultimately, we find that these are the things that you need to bear in mind that we will try ultimately to put them that covered, make sure that they are covered. So either you buy a group PA for them or personal accident, or in this case, in the policy, you can put it as a third party. So, but you put in a memorandum or a clause to mention that for site activities in respect of this, they are deemed to be considered as a third party. Otherwise, when there's a claim, there could be run into dispute. So you want dispute, it's best that you make it upfront. Because I've been writing in this insurance for how many years? 40 years. Okay. So if your insured is not named in the policies, therefore this is a problem. Like you and me, when we do site visits, we are not named. So not named is okay because we are called third party straight away. And then the owner of this building, I say, I want to cut the ribbon, also not named. So they're also considered third party. But they can be also considered first party. So take note, when you do have this case, then you must always inform the insurers to include them separately by the endorsement. Okay. Sometime later, after they completed about 20-30%, they built a shop, a mock-up building. That is not part of the work. Remind yourself, they put in aircon, furniture, everything. This is excluded under the policy. Remind yourself. So you have to insure it separately. Okay. Don't assume it is covered part of it because it is never part of the work. Okay. So nowadays, many main cons will appoint subcontractors who are expert. In fact, subcontractors are usually called expert because the main con doesn't know how to do it. So therefore, they're just like Alibaba, they place it with the main subcontractors. Generally, subcontractors are very experienced in the job. Example, they do piling. Example, they do deep excavation work. Example, they do earthwork. These are all experts. So basically, they will arrange a separate letter between the main con and subcon. It all depends. Sometimes the principal will say, no, you cannot appoint. You must get my approval. Then you have to refer to them. Okay. This is only for your information only. So going forward, you find that the CI policies have three sections I just mentioned to you. Section 1 is very simple. It's just talking about the works. And in the works itself, usually we are talking about permanent works and temporary works. So the next slide, I'll show you what I mean by permanent works and what I mean by temporary works. Then the other things is that sometimes the principal supplied materials because they can get the materials which you can't get it at a lower cost, or maybe they can get the materials which is from overseas, like Italian tiles you cannot get, you only there they can get. So they want you to use their tiles. Okay. So the other part is 3 and 4 is talking about remote debris and professional fees. These are now been added on for larger projects. After teaching the architects, engineers, and all those people in the site in 2012, now you find all big projects that follow what I've told the QS. Now the QS make sure that there's a separate sum insured or a percentage for remote debris and a separate percentage for the professional fees. After discussing with them, they say that the contract works have never included remote debris, have never included professional fees, because professional fees is around 7% to 10%. So how would they know how much to put in, isn't it, as a contractor? So normally when they bid for it under the BQ, these are totally excluded. Okay. Then construction plant equipment machinery. Don't forget that they don't have no insurable interest as far as a contractor is concerned because they hire in the plants. So don't insure it. Don't. You insure it, it's no use. You only pay premium to the insurance company, but you won't get the claim paid. The other one is that they actually insure it sometimes, but they won't place it in your policy. Why? Because they already arrange a policy called equipment all risk, and that will be covering all the machineries that are everywhere in Malaysia, not limited to only the contract side. All right. Then the last one is called principal surrounding properties. Normally, we don't have principal surrounding property when we build a building. For example, you build TRX. Do you have principal property? Answer is 0. When you build KL11, do you have principal property? Yes. The Stadium Negara and the Stadium Merdeka is a principal property because it's owned by PNB groups, who when I do survey, these items are there. They have to monitor the works in of this K118 because they cause movement of the soil, and the Stadium Negara and Stadium Merdeka have some cracks also, So that's the reason why these are called principal surrounding properties, if they are. Okay. So today it becomes the landmark for the KL118. Now the section 2 is talking about the public liability section. It's just like anybody taking out public liability policies. It covers legal liability in respect to accident arising from property damage and also accident arising from bodily injury. Okay. So just take note that this is usually covered for those third party. So in addition, you can also extend to protect those professionals I mentioned to you when they conduct these activities at the sites. So some of them are died also in the site because while they're having a meeting, something dropped on the sky and then landed in the office. The office is just a container, no? So they also died. So make sure they also consider that as part and parcel. If you don't insure, it's okay because if they die, no, because the policy won't pay. That's all. Okay. So the third part is called delay startup, or sometimes people call advanced loss of profit. Delay startup means the one word is say you delay to commence the work. Say, for example, the KL118 and the MRT. MRT was supposed to complete in, if I'm not wrong, March 2023. My last day in working on this MRT was December 2022. So that job just completed in March 2023, sorry. So just ngam only. Whereas KL118 is supposed to be completed in 2019 December. Today is ngam only to see the building. So it's delayed by 6 years. So a lot of money to be paid out by PNB Group to all those who purchase property in this building, if they purchase. Okay, so that is what they're talking about. So who actually are the one who have the insurable interest for delay startup? Is only the principal, because the moment you cannot hand the property to your unit purchasers, just like you buy a house, within 2 years you cannot, then they have to pay penalty to the unit purchasers. Okay, so that's the reason why they buy this delay startup. However, there are two ways that you can insure. One is to insure the profit element. The other one is to insure the cost of servicing the bank charges. So the easier way is how much you pay per bank per month. That is what you're going to pay. Okay. So usually many people will opt for service bank charges because it's much easier. If you go for profit, then you do establish how you get the profits element. And this one is no rocket science. You have to actually agak only. So no one is correct. Okay. So this is how they establish it. Bear in mind that it's only the principal who's buy the insurance. So why buy insurance for this work? Number one is because there are accidents happening and nobody knows when it's going to happen. So I use the word unforeseen sudden physical loss or damage. And this accident damage can also cause third party liability. So the section 3 will also be affected because of the accident, then only trigger the section 3 to pay. Okay. Then finally, you find that CAR insurance, we are so successful in not able to pay any claims, is one word: risk management. So from time to time, we don't do the survey, we engage an engineer. We also engage people to do monthly, quarterly project monitoring. So they will submit a report to us. Okay, so when you go to the site, like auditors every now and then, what do you think about the insured? They're very kanjiong, they're very, yeah, very behave themselves, isn't it? So this is one of the way that we actually do, but we don't mind spending this money. And this money can be multi-millions. It's okay because we save a lot of losses of claims. Okay. So the other thing that you take note of is that the stakeholders need to make sure that they have to safeguard the property, and these are mainly timely completion of the project because they will have a penalty. You look at all those contractors, most of them who are reputable, they were built on time, just like MRT, just on time. Okay, so they cannot say, oh, why a delay because of COVID. COVID also you continue to do lah, there's nothing to stop you. So they continue to do the work with the approval of the government. Okay. So the next point is contract conditions. So most people say, what projects, why should we follow them? What must we do? Why must we buy insurance? It's because of the contract conditions or form of the contract conditions that states that you have to purchase insurance first before you undertake the job. So now it becomes a must, just like motor car. You must buy insurance before you can start to do work. So it is actually made compulsory. Okay. The only thing that is not made compulsory is maybe the people say, even now, cut grass, the contractors are called G1 and G2. They also have to buy insurance. Okay. So usually that's the case. So for those international contractors that come to Malaysia, they will buy under the contract condition called FIDIC or FIDIC. Okay. It is just a document to tell you what are the obligations of the principal, what are the obligation of the contractor, and so forth. So the pros and cons. If they don't pay me money, how? Can you sue each other? Can. This all are stated in the agreement. Okay. You can also walk out of the project. Also can. Can or not? Can also because of this contract. Okay. If any things are happening, can you claim or not? Can also because of payment. Something like that. So the second one is actually called PAM, which is very famous in Malaysia only because no other countries uses this. It's called Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia. In fact, it follows the UK called RIBA, Royal Institute of British Architect. Okay, same wording. It's just that we convert into such a way, that they call it Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia. Then for JKR, sometimes they call it Kementerian Kerja Raya, KKR. It all implements national projects, mainly for government projects only. Okay, so again, it is not easy to get these type of projects. Even Bumi Putra for agents find it absolutely difficult because they got a cronies. The cronies say must give to only that agent, agent AI, not like that. You can't do anything. So I've talked to many agents before in my class, and I realized that this is a very tough area. But the project is that they must use JKR wording, not the PALM, not the FIDIC. Okay. Then finally, they have this so-called CIDB, which is mainly construction projects, whether private sector or public sector. The main aim is that they want them to construct using what they call this wording. And of course, they operate efficiently, safely, and competitively. Nothing more than that. So this follow back. So some people use it, but it's not popular, CIDB. And lastly, the Institute of Engineering Malaysia, IEM, for those engineers are usually related to mechanical, electrical, and what they call civil. They will also have to follow with IEM. It all depends on the principle. What are the contract terms you want? So these are more popular, but it doesn't mean this is the end. There are more than that. Okay, but you find that mainly people go for FIDIC, PALM, and JKR full stop. Okay, so let's dive into the need. So you buy insurance not because you need it, because it is stipulated by number one, you had exposure. No one contractors will know what's happening below the ground. You got cavities, also no, don't know. You got what they call lousy soil, also you don't know. Okay, so all these things they need to face is they have to buy insurance. So fortunately, insurance is now made compulsory. So therefore, they must need to make sure that they conduct their job uh, with professionalism. So the first thing they do is called soil investigations, after which they will do the details on what type of soil they be used. If this soil is lousy, they take all the soil and throw it away. Example, the landfill area. Landfill area where people throw in rubbish. And over the years, maybe 10, 20 years, they want to take this land. Or sometimes they call it, this is what they call the the people who use it for sewage system. It's a pond. Now they clean it up, then they build. You see a lot of tall buildings are now built under this type of what they call landfill area and sewage system area, encounter problem. So unless they do properly, take away all the soil and put in new aggregate of soil, then you find that this no problem. Okay. So the second thing is labor resources. Now labor resources, they're talking about human being. So why is it that KL1 where they have no claim one? Why is it that KL1 where nobody die one? It's because of one word. The professionals are very, very strict. Okay. Unfortunately for MRT, there are 3% died because they encountered a bomb, and that's it. Okay. So while they're doing some work in Bandar, Malaysia. Okay. So this is what I'm saying. It can happen. So the other one is actually called the safety. Safety is very strict. We started this safety by this department called Department of Occupational Safety and Health back in 1994. And this is when you find that a lot of workers don't die now. Okay. It's because of that. Because the moment that somebody get killed or injured, this is a DOSH will go there and start an inquiry. And that inquest or inquiry is called indefinite. Indefinite means that you don't know when it will expire. So the workers, main con, will sit there and wait and wait and wait for how many days, I don't know, or how many months, I don't know, or how many years, I don't know. Okay. Some project, they will stop you completely because they failed to meet the guidelines. So these are all depend on these guys are all engineers, so they know what they are talking. So the other thing is prudence that you buy because it will show you that the evidence of CR insurance. So for very strict principle, they will not allow you to start work unless they show the policy coming from the insurance company and it's a license. So Berjaya is a license, so it's licensed, you can get it. You get a policy from Singapore, from Thailand, Indonesia, they say bye-bye. Okay. Protection. Insurance will indemnify the insured parties on the works and liability to the third parties. So basically, you have two things. You cover the works and you cover the third party as well as those professionals. That is what is important. So therefore, the need for this CR is a must. Okay. So there's not much of finding where to source it. The only thing, how you're going to get in touch. So only thing sometimes what we do is when we want to get direct business, just like you, we enroll ourselves into what they call networking. Networking means get to know the contractors, get to know the principal, tell them what we can do, tell them what you can do, something like that. And you'll find that it's very lucrative over time. Not 1 year, and take a few years. Next, you go into the second one is called the scope of coverage. And before I jump in that, let me just check any question from the floor in case you have.
No, tak ada.
Tak ada. Okay, thank you. You're still around here. Okay. So there are 8 points here. Let's dive into it. And I mentioned that 154 slides, so I have to rush a bit. So let's come into the section 1. You find that the policy wording with sum insured is actually the works. Then I mentioned all these items just now. So the only two take point is I put a tick is insurers will pay in cash, whether you replace it, repair it, or reinstate it. Okay, that's the only thing. So it is one word. All the properties there is usually are called on reinstatement basis. The only time when we pay indemnity is when you move a factory. Example, a factory in Malacca move to Seremban, or factory move to Kuala Lumpur, or Kuala Lumpur move to Johor Bahru, example, or Penang, whatever. So these type of things is that you're moving an existing factory. Usually the plant machinery are all very old. So then we will not pay on reinstatement value, but we pay on maybe on indemnity only. And furthermore, we have to do a lot of check. So what we do is we don't do ourselves. What we do is we engage engineers to do a check. These engineers will check any pre-existing damages to the machinery before we actually undertake. Those already damaged, we take photograph. So you 1990, you submit a claim, you say bye-bye. Okay. We have done undertaken for star publications. We are undertaken for many because when they move machinery, there are machineries that we need to move from point to A to point B. Okay. So not exceeding the sum insured cover means the maximum the insurers will pay would be the sum insured. Although the sum insured, let's say, could be a few 100,000 or few 100 million, for example, But that item damage, let's say, for example, is a transformer. So we are referring to the transformer when we pay the claim, not the entire total contract value. Okay, that is what it means. That's the sum of the items covered. Now, this is a policy wording. They can see that the policy mentioned the word shall suffer. I underline that in red. Unforeseen sudden physical loss of damage from any cause other than those specifically excluded in a manner necessitating repair and replacement. And then go bottom. The policy says that was some set and not exceeding the one in one event, the limit of indemnity were applicable and not exceeding the total sum insured expressed in the schedule. In the last part, you find that the insurers will also reimburse the insured for the cost of clearance of debris following any giving rise to a claim under this policy, provided there's a provided provision there. A separate sum insured has been entered in the schedule. So if you don't have a separate sum insured, no cover. Okay, that is what it means. So when I was in Germany, I asked the underwriters, Munich Re, what it mean by unforeseen sudden physical loss of damage. They can't give me the information. So anyway, I've come back from Munich Re. I got to teach in Malaysia already. So immediately I had to set up this, and I got it from some reading. And don't use it as it because it's not a definition in the policy. It's only for me to show it to you what it mean by that. Okay. Basically, if you use this wording in UK, tak boleh pakai, cannot use, no use. Okay, because you're using a German wording. Now I have to read to you. Unforeseen means circumstances were not recognized in time or could have foreseen despite professional know-how. Sudden means happening all at once without being expected. Means it is not a gradual. It must bang, exploded, on fire. Not over time, you're dripping, and the oil dripping. That is called gradual. Physical means you can see, you can touch, you can simply call it tangible. Okay? You cannot say, hey, I got a loss yesterday. Oh, so now it doesn't work. Tomorrow I start, hey, work again. So physically, no damage. So therefore, this is not something that will pay. So if you look back and forward, you remember the property damage clarification wording, it refers to the same, meaning that there must be a property damage. Only then the policy will cover. And the policy continues to say what? From items whatsoever cause not specifically excluded, meaning that all you need to look at is you look at the exclusions and those clauses and extensions, whether there is any limitation or no cover. If they mention no cover, then the policy don't pay. Okay, so that is the loss adjuster will need to do it to check on all this. So for the loss adjuster, it is really a tough job because I was a loss adjuster for not too long. And then I realized that all these things we need to have two-person. One is called a PE, professional engineers to help us. Secondly is we need a forensic to help us. Because if there's a loss, I can guarantee you no one loss adjuster can tell you this is correct. Guarantee, nobody. Because when you go to court, they have to fight it out. So you must get a PE to do the calculations. The calculation is to say why this loss. So we have to work out. So the working is we get it from the engineer who designed it, the calculation, and then we say why it failed. So because it failed due to maybe the insured have provided a lower factor of safety. That's why it failed, Or maybe the items is wrongly used, different material. So whether payable or not, it depends. But the outcome of these professional engineers and the forensics is very important. So normally for all engineering classes, we not only pay to the loss adjuster, we always pay to the professional engineer or the forensic engineer, usually. So coming to permanent work and temporary works. Basically, permanent works refers to construction or renovation of building that is completed. And it comprises what they call a completed structure installation improvement of a site. Example, I build a bridge. When the bridge is completed, that is called a permanent works. When you build a building, when the building is completed, that is called a permanent works or pipeline or road works. However, temporary works, a lot of issues arising because the book we study is called Chartered Insurance Association, whereas the loss adjuster study is called Chartered Insurance Loss Adjuster. Totally different book. So there was claim that all those reusable items, don't be surprised. They say form work, you can take and reuse it. Or the scaffolding, we can take it down and reuse it. All these are considered as plant, machinery, and equipment. Okay, so you got to be very careful. However, there are some contractors are very clever because of some of the losses they have not been paid. So what they do is they put the scaffolding, the sheet piles, the temporary housing, all these put under what they call temporary works. So where do you find the word temporary works? It's inside the contract value. You ask them, they can show it to you. Usually it's found in the word called preliminaries. Okay, I will show it to you shortly. So generally, you can find that the quarters where they stay is also a part of temporary works. The store that you bring in, because you need a temporary store, is also a temporary works. Sometimes you have to build what you call electrical, what you call items, or temporary only, temporary substation, or maybe temporary generator set is also temporary. Water, you bring a water tank, also temporary. When you go to Bakun Dam, you cut the road inside so that they have, that is also called temporary work. Okay, anything that is called temporary. When we build the TBS, Terminal Bersekutu Selatan, they have a diversion of the work of the river, they call it the drain or river. So that is also temporary works. They submitted the claim, but because they've mentioned that the design up to 1:100 years, they failed, so therefore the claim was not payable. Okay, so it all depends how you look at it. So just now I mentioned your professional fees is actually partly, I did not know about it until the QS arranged for me to come and speak for them. And I explained to them that the professional fees that is provided by the contractors are basically one item. However, they did not include the professional fees. And these professional fees are usually ranging about 7 to 8%, up to 10%. It depends. Okay. And this for smaller projects usually is built inside. So you don't have to put smaller project will be, let's say, a subcontracted works. Okay. Something like that. Or works which is not really big and they really do not need a professional engineer. Example, can you pay for me a foundation so that I can have what they call a badminton court? Can you make a swimming pool for me? Just a swimming pool at that size. You don't need professional fees. It's a very small work, something like that. Okay. So for remote debris, the same thing applies. Usually there's a percentage set. And remote debris usually start with 1% up to 10%. And for smaller projects, sometimes they just use a clause. Similar to a professional fees, they use a clause. The moment you use a clause means the contract value will be reduced as a result of giving some of the money to this remote debris and professional fees. That's the only thing. It's because you are not giving it a separate summation for remote debris, a separate summation for professional fees. So it falls under contract value. So in order to do that, you have to put a proper clause inside. Okay. For public liability, as you know, these are quite different from surrounding property. So bearing in mind that they are very close to
Peter, you have a question in the chat box.
Sure. If I want to renovate my own house, don't do it lah. You ask somebody to do it for you. And I stand in as a main contractor. And I get different groups of people to do the job, just like electrical job, plumbing, masonry, and so on. I know you are called the main con, so you select. I know what you're trying to say. So what's your question now? What's the question now? Can I buy CR? Now, when you approach Berjaya Group, I can understand it's not easy, because the first thing is they say that this type of job, can you give me the period, how long? Now, secondly, I must make sure the total contract value, how much. Then the other thing is I want to make sure who are these contractors. There's a lot of lecture work for you. So if you want to submit as a main con, let's say, for example, you want to be like called main con to take care of everything, you have to group everything together and then submit together and see whether the insurance. But basically, you don't need a pump. You don't need a JK. You don't need wording at all. So question is, most insurers will walk away. Most insurers will walk away. I mean, I can assure you, because they say this type of work, I don't want to do, So sometimes or other, they may find a bit of leche. But if you have properly done, getting an engineer to do it, then it's different. Let's say, for example, you get a person, a professional project manager, you come up with the contract value, very professionally, the party limits and so forth. Then it makes sense. So don't save this more money. After all, you're doing a renovation of your own bungalow. Don't waste. Make sure it is built to what you need, because you are not an engineer. So anything that goes wrong, we will go after the engineer. And since you are not an engineer, most insurers will just say bye-bye. Okay? Because when you fail, we will ask for the calculation, my dear friend. Why there's this so-called extended building is collapsed, So we need to get the chart, So of course you need to submit it to your municipal also, or the public authorities. So I don't do that. Okay. Try to get a professional to do everything for you. If million, they will charge you 100,000 subsoil. Okay. So don't do that. Thank you for your questions. Now let's dive into the next one. It's called the PL limits. Usually you can find the word is called limit any one loss and unlimited any one period. So this is what I'm set is basically to say that you can have many claims, one claim, two claims throughout the whole period. Okay. And this policy is always arranged this way. For the whole project, it's always unlimited. So the limit you set, what is the limit you set? So the rule of the game is basically is what is the most likely exposure. Now you look at your vicinity. Vicinity means inside your premises of the worksite and outside your worksite. That means this is a perimeter fence outside. The outside one is called in your vicinity. Example, if this is a Giant 33, when they're building some building like that, this big tall building from ground up, they know that they have a lot of buildings behind them. These are called those, I would call incidental building, and they have a rubber wall. So they built too near to this rubber wall, and the rubber wall collapsed. We did not pay a claim. They want to sue us, but ultimately they pull back and withdraw because they know that they are wrong. You see, you have to number one protect your neighbor first before you start to do the work. You got to do a DLAP survey. That means pre-existing survey first before you do the job. You just don't just do like that straight away. Now, if we find that the insurers have not done the job, we will always insist to ask for a DLAP survey. Okay, so these are the things that we will always ensure that you cover not only inside the site but also outside the site, in the vicinity. How far away? No mention, but it's in the vicinity. Okay, so basically, insurers would impose conditions on the contractor performing work too close to third party that I mentioned to you just now, that there's hazards. You mean to say you damage your third party, you say gone? No such thing. So they will go after you. And the peer policies will say, make sure that you are professional enough. As a professional, you need to do is protect your existing property first. If you cannot protect your existing property like MRT, what they do is they demolish the building and then they build back the building for them, a nice one. Otherwise, you're going to kena. Okay, we did not pay to TBS one claim whereby they cause damages to existing property. They should actually acquire it because it's far too near, far too close. Whatever you do sure cause cracks to the building. Okay, so this is something that you have to do. Another one is called the tracing of cables. Okay, so tracing of cables is another set that you need to bear in mind. And one of the students is actually called Petronas. And I asked him not too long ago when I was teaching in AII virtual, you are coming from Petronas. You are in charge of insurance. This Petronas hike, what do you think? And they follow all the whatever that they say. They follow everything. No, so that had been there for many years. Okay, so how it happened? That one question mark. Okay, so basically, when you do anything, you must locate existing cables. You must locate things, and then you try after locate already. You call the stakeholders. We'll show some slide later on how to call. Make sure they come in, and then make sure they actually attend to it. So insurers will evaluate any special risks associated with third party. Associated risk we call risk that you are going to do, you sure cause damages to third party. That means that you have to actually engage what we call a supervisor or engineers. Like the Suki, there's something that collapsed during the COVID. The reason is, if you go back to the root cause, is because there's no supervisors, no engineer, and they lift the thing, and then the thing fall down. You need people who have the experience and expertise. Okay. So the other thing is that you need to do is conduct pre-existing damage survey. You just cannot just assume. So some of the things that I've seen called special with HDD, horizontal directional drilling. Today and onwards, you find that this TNB, the last 5 years, they insist that all contractors must use HDD, no more open trench. HDD means you put a cable inside the ground and then go that side. Okay, I will show you some pictures shortly. Then open trench means people just cut it open and then you lay your cables. This is an old-fashioned way. Okay, but some areas you can do in the rural area, boleh, but not in the city limits. Okay, work on site with existing underground cables. You need to trace first. And pipe jacking work, if you happen to go into somewhere in the city today, those sewage systems are now changing. So what they do is they do mini tunneling, or simply called pipe jacking work. So pipe jacking work, in fact, is called tunneling work, but in a smaller scale, not the same like MRT. Okay, such work would demand the expertise of the named contractors. Usually they don't do it. that engage a subcontractor do it. The subcontractor have been doing this type of work forever. Example called Mersing, Mersing is one of the contractors which you have actually associated with. Method of work employed. How do you do it? So the method of work means that you don't just do it, no, but know how, show us how the scope, okay? Limit and liability, we also make sure it is within the limits. If you want more, like some people wanted 30 million, like the MRT, how? So you have to place reinsurance, or not that it cannot be done. Even MRT still find that the 25 million in the policy tak cukup. So they arranged another 225 million in excess of 25 million. So the total limit is 250 million. Okay. So luckily thing there's no claim under the 225 million. All fall within the 25 million excess. Okay. Limit liability, sorry. So the other thing, same thing is that there will always engages these people. They will ensure that the work done is the best engineering practices. Best engineering practices mean no cut corners. They must do the work correctly. And the employees must be competent. Means they are qualified, or at least they are competent. Okay. So some of the work you find is a horizontal directional drilling on the left-hand side, top. Then bottom is open trench. On the right-hand side, top, you find existing cables. They've traced already. After tracing, you need to call these stakeholders. Okay. And then pipe jacking work like this. It's all tunneling work. Okay. So these are the things that you find are happening everywhere. And these are mainly for pembentukan. It's a sewage system. So underground cables, usually they need to locate the underground services, check, mapping it, and also understand that there is also what they call a clause. So when you put in the underground cable clause, what it means to say is they want to exclude consequential loss. They also want to exclude penalty, not because they want to put a clause there. Wherever I see any works on CR, I think practically all insurers will use underground cable clause, isn't it? Why? Because they do not want to cover consequential loss. They do not want to cover penalty. Do you know that the third party, we do cover consequential loss? Most of you don't understand that, but actually we do. So the only way to avoid this consequential loss, for example, you cut the cable and you cause the damage to all the cables, no supply electricity to all the industry and factories, you know what will happen? The loss will be sky high, And penalties usually happen for those like fiber rail, microfiber rail, which is your Unify, your Wi-Fi. Okay, so basically this is how they trace. Now it's handheld. It's very easily done. Okay, so what they do is, this is given to me when I was actually attending a webinar. After speaking the webinar, the engineer from TMB speak, and I took some photograph. And this is how they do it. They walk zigzag. Okay, and that's not how they do. And after that, the pilot ready, they put a cone. They also walk zigzag all the way. Okay, so after they trace the cable, they say call before you dig, not BYD. Call before you dig, and that's how the system works. Okay. So that's how they do it. Okay. Then, of course, next is come to the period cover. Now, the period cover, as you can see, is very straightforward. Looks like very simple. Make it bigger for you. It says the liability of insurance shall commence, means starts, notwithstanding any date to contrary, specified to schedule directly upon commencement of work and after unloading or items entered. The insurance liability expires for parts of work contract taken over or put into service, meaning that the policy starts from the date when it first supposed to start. Now, most of your agents here, I believe you may be doing subcontractor work. You find you cannot comply. That's why you have to sign a letter undertaking. Whereas most of the projects which I do is always main con. When I do main con, basically it will start before that. I know what's happening before it start. And from time to time, they will have partial handover. When there's a partial handover, it's called taken over or put into service. But the project still ongoing. Okay, but the project is not expired. So they sometimes do have that. At the latest, the insurance should expire on the date specified, usually whichever comes first. If the project is not completed on the expiry date, then they ask for EOT, extension of time. Okay, so this extension of time, just for your information, do remember that it's not automatic. I am a professional reinsurer, just to let you know. I can walk out from any projects anytime. I just tell you bye-bye, also can. So therefore, don't assume that the insurers do not want to give you the cover. It's because the reinsurers are not giving you the cover. So therefore, most of the brokers, what we have done, come and counter, is they always ask for 6 months automatic extension. For big projects, boleh lah. For small projects, susah lah. Oh, just to let you know. So there are sometimes other that you have to bear in mind that do happen. Now, one thing glaring in this period of cover, they read and read and read. You see many times, you read many times. you find that they're only talking about the construction period. Nowhere in the period cover they cover the maintenance period. Do you realize that? So if you want to have the maintenance period, you need to put in an endorsement, usually called Minigri 004. Okay, we'll touch on that very shortly. So basically, you find that I did not mention maintenance period. So they have to put in this extended maintenance cover. So in short, when you see the period cover, it actually refers to the construction period only. Okay, so if there's any loss occurrence during the maintenance period, does the loss cover the third party? Big question mark, isn't it? The answer is no. No, no. Okay. So extended maintenance cover basically is mentioned at two parts. I read for you. Part A says that the contractors is obliged to make good any defects. Example, you take over a house, the house sure got defects one. Most of the defects will be your tiles is hollow one, nothing inside. Okay, so you bang with the hammer, it will just dong 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 got noise one. Or sometimes defects in the tiles and the roof, water keep coming down one because they don't join correctly. Or maybe what they call the ceiling wall, false floor, is also badly done. So you find these defects are there. Never mind, they are given 24 months to come back and rectify this. So that's why they say the contractor is obliged to make good any defects. So how does the policy come into being? Good question. So you all will never ask this question because I have never had a claim under maintenance. The reason is because you all don't know how to make a claim. So the reason here is that if you want to make a claim, make sure that when the contractor come back and do the remedial works and they bring in the blowtorch because they need something to stick on to the roof, for example, using a kind of like the aircon, the kind of black color one, and they use a blowtorch because they make it hot and then only stick it on, you see. So that blowtorch created a fire. Then how? The fire will be paid under the policy or not? My answer to you is as long as the fire happened when the contractors is doing remedial work, the policy will trigger. Okay. The second part is talking about damage, not defects. Damage occurs during the construction period, but you did not discover it. Only people who are engineers, when they buy houses, they will use a drone to check the the roof. People like us, mana ada, and then they also ask people to pay people to check the whole building to see where any defects or not. They want 100% defects taken care. Okay, so they check the piping system, they check the material, they check the painting work, they check everything lah. But you need to pay money lah to suggest. Okay, so those are called damages. Your policy under CEL or EL will pay. However, if it's defects, then it fall back to under IA, where the contractor come back and rectify it. And when they create a claims, then the policy will pay. Okay, that's what it means. So you only discover the defects, then you come under A. If you discover damage during the maintenance periods, you tell the contractor and you tell the Berjaya, and the Berjaya have to pay the claim. Okay, something like that. So therefore, during maintenance period, if there's a fire, accident damage, or theft, or even while the contractor is conducting any remedial works, A will be covered. However, losses to third party is all the while excluded. So don't try to make a claim. Therefore, any people who have bought the insurance already, whether house owner or whatever, then therefore they have to take up a PL, isn't it? So this PL means they're talking about third party. So when you're doing rectifying work, they're very got third party one, isn't it? The third party is yourself, so therefore it is not covered. Okay, so just bear in mind that losses in third party is definitely excluded during the remedial work. And so far, I have not seen one claim throughout my 40 over years working in the industry. Okay, so next you come into the construction in defect period. Basically, the defective life periods will always begin when the provisional certificate of completion is issued or when the certificate is taken into use. So CR defective period is in fact referred to as the maintenance period. So when you talk to a layman people who are non-insurance people, like professionals, architect, engineer, you talk to them, you don't tell them maintenance period, they don't understand one. You must tell them DLP, it's called defect liability period. Then they know, oh, this is called maintenance period. Okay? So contractor would not be liable to the works which is handed over to the principal during the maintenance periods, which means to say wherever the project is handed over, always remind your principal to buy fire insurance, public liability insurance, and all other relevant insurance. this is a chance for you to make some insurance commission. All right. The contractor exposures is therefore reduced during the maintenance period because most of the contractors' workers were lari, cabut already. You only call them back once in a blue moon within the 24 months because most of the workers have gone to other project sites. They are paid salary to work on others, but not to do this maintenance work. To them, it's extra work for them. No. So therefore, under the contract condition, the contractors would be responsible for damages to work, and this will be rectifying defects, all within the 24 months, as far as concerned. For government projects, you add another 3 months and 14 days, right? So the other thing is, we have to go back to and check on any question coming from the floor before I move on. Just give me a minute. No question, only one question coming from Wong Mei Sun. Okay. So I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say. If you don't understand, just you can unmute yourself and I explain to you. Now, next way is part C. These are 5 items, the policy wording itself. So the part 1 is basically talking about sum insured. Okay, you find that sum insured will always use the word BQ, short form for bill of quantities. So what is this BQ all about? When I bid for it, everybody put in a tender. The successful contractors will submit it with the BQ is with quantities. But sometimes, in your case, just now Wong Mei San, you say, I want to do this job. I cannot give you breakdown, but lump sum is 100,000. That is called BQ without quantities. So if the insurers accept it, very good. You don't accept it, just too bad. Okay. So these are the problem. So when you do this, the contractor cannot ask, hey, say I quoted wrongly, or can I ask for another tamba, another 10,000? So Wong Mei San, you will tell the person, sorry, your contract is BQ without quantities, hai kam sin, no more. Okay. So the BQ for small value usually would not include professional fees and will not include remote debris. So the point here is, if you want to include it, either you put a separate sum insured or you put in a clause with the approval of your insurance company. Okay, just to mention that. So, but for larger projects, you will always find there is an appendix attaching to it. Most of you will just give a letter of appointment to the insurance. I will wonder how the insurance quoted to you immediately. A letter of what tells you nothing. Okay, so the guys who actually do it can just quote just to please you only. But they must remember, can you place the risk in the market? Okay, if the risk is sizable, can you place or not? The answer is they will not be able to place. Okay, so if you place it on a higher side, maybe, but also difficult because your reinsurance will ask, hey, can you give me this document, that document, and this document? Oh, sorry, I don't have, I only got a letter appointment. Tak boleh one. You cannot work one. Okay, so just bear in mind in the appendix, you find the professional fees and remote debris will be between 7 to 10%. So going forward, you find that this is one of the cases which I want to show it to you and share with you. You find that on the top there is called preliminaries. That is where the temporary works are falling inside. And they'll call you, Mr. Insurance, now I would like to have a quotation from you. I give you a letter appointment. Can you quote for me? Then I say, okay, since you give me nothing, I quote you 50 cents. Can or not? Okay, 50 cents. So they use the 50 cents and put under the preliminaries as the insurance indicative premium. And that's how the contractor get their quotation. After that, they build your premium inside the preliminaries. Workman, how much? Again, you give indication. They put the premium also under preliminaries. The rest are all quoted by the contractors. Now, remember, contractors no need education one. Remember, they are not professional engineer. Even I studied engineering, I cannot tell myself professional engineer because I must be registered and I must practice engineering in the engineering field. Then only I call myself an engineer. So if you see any person who's engineer teaching you engineering, don't tell me he's an engineer. You see any loss adjuster around who's an engineer, he is also not engineering because he did not practice. The moment you did not practice, you're out. Okay, you're out, totally out. So therefore, that's the reason why a loss adjuster is not qualified to say that this is definitely a claim not payable. This claim that will be payable. They cannot. But they like to quote in the section under liability that this claim is payable, this claim is not payable, and so forth. But why they can quote that is because they have behind them, they already got a professional engineers. Okay, just to let you know. So behind there, you go to item number 9, you see there's a professional fees. The 5.3 millions, if you work forward and backward, what is the amount? Is about 7%, between 7 to 8%, correct? Isn't it? So total is 72 million times 7% is around there. So it's between 7 to 8%. So I'm right. So this is Malaysian market. Okay. So let's go forward. This is what they call the major component. And you find feasibility study, insurance, smallish equipment, implement tool, everything dumped inside here. But how do you know? Only when there's a claim, only then the loss adjuster will dig it. And every time the loss adjuster asks for it, they sure can get it from the contractor. But you as an agent, you try to get it from there. And I say, don't have. Don't have. Substructure work, don't have. Superstructure, don't have. Everything also don't have one. And number 4, prime cost that use a technical word is actually M&E. Okay. So these are the things that you find most of the time, 1 to 8 or even more sometimes. But they will always say don't have one, but you can get one. Because I've been telling those professionals when I'm teaching those guys, is that you don't give me, very simple. We give you a ballpark figure with no RI support one. Hello, okay. I just want to get your job only. But once I cannot get a job now, man, okay? If I get a job, I cannot place because you never give me the information. So how to place? Like that, no? So the second part, you find that is called the limit liability. I mentioned just now, it's called in the immediate vicinity. So bearing in mind that there's no limits. They don't mention how many kilometers or how many meters. So as long as the third party come to you, there's a claim, then it's an issue. So most of the claim we get is coming from the contractor's car damage, or people like me go and drive the car, nowhere to park there lah, kena lah, like that, no? Most of the time, okay? So they basically, these are what I can see. So from the typical insurance cover, you find that you see the policy wording, it mentioned legal liability to pay the damages for accidental bodily injury and accidental loss of damage. The one word accidental must appear here because we want the client to submit why they are liable. So you don't have to reply to the third party as the contractor. You as a subcontractor, you don't have to reply. And you must always inform your insured not to do anything. Don't show body language that I'm liable, whatever. Don't even reply. Just send everything to the insurance company. They have legal assistance. They have lawyers behind them. The lawyers behind them are only working for insurance company and fighting against outside people. The lawyers that working for the insured are fighting against the insurance company will not be a lawyers working for the insurance company. Remember that, because there are two different lawyers. One is for the insurance company. One is for the other people. They're fighting. Today, there are loss adjusters who have retired. And these loss adjusters are fighting for the insured to fight against the insurance company. Do you know that? And many of them are my friends, So I told them, sorry lah. You want to fight with them, you fight lah. Recommend. I said, tak boleh lah. Tak boleh. Okay, that's what I can say. So occurring in direct connection with construction happening on the immediate vicinity and happening during the period of cover. So that's the reason why I have to stress a lot for you, because it is only mentioned the period of cover. It's only the construction period. Okay. So mindful, the construction period is not mentioned, therefore it is not covered during the maintenance period. So deductible, you find that most of the time we want to put it in this section, isn't it? Sometimes we have deductibles of many things. When my deductible comes, sometimes can be 10 times more longer than you, because not only act of God, we put theft, resultant damage, sometimes even fire, even other losses. Now, never use other perils, because if you use wrongly, when there's a claim, the insurers will suffer, and not you will suffer. Insurers will suffer because other perils, not win the perils. Losses means any kind of losses. Okay. So section 2, you find that they also mentioned about third-party property damage, underground cables, vibration breaking support. You will never find the word third-party bodily injury. There's no deductible. Okay. Why is deductible imposed? I told people that I can quote a rate at 5 cents. My time, I always quote around 5 cents to 10 cents. Do I have a claim? No claim one. And how much is excess? Very big excess. Okay. You want low rates, the excess will go up. The highest excess I quoted is 5 million. Okay. Of course, there are lower excess than that. So usually the excess can come down if your premium go up. because that's how you make me able to place reinsurance and co-insurance. So generally, the first one thing is that you find that the premium level will be moderated up or down depending on the deductibles. There's no such thing that the rate come down, the excess also come down together. No such thing. Whoever can place like that, God bless you. That's why many insurers walk away from CR because they don't know how to play this type of game. So we have never seen some contractors. Some of the contractors will ask for tiering of deductibles. Tiering, landscaping one access, earthwork one access like that. If you have done this before, then you know what I'm talking about. Because those projects which I handle usually is locked in for 10 years with me. So no agents can come in, no brokers can come in. It's locked in and all. So all the projects will be coming to me. Okay. So this will be all coming in this layering because most of them cannot do this type of layering. So the other thing that you need to know what is making the insured to be more responsible and take effort to manage risk exposure. So meaning to say, if you don't have access, the insurance simply tembak out, simply do got insurance, go and claim for insurance. So is that the idea? That's the reason why many of these contractors have been blacklisted and we will not continue with them. Because if we continue with them, the access will go up this. And we know who are those. Because when we do survey the time, we will see the same engineer. Manage the loss experience arising from unforeseen sudden physical loss or damage, theft of site, and so forth. So when I say manage means, if your loss ratio is no good, you find what will happen. Even in between, we will actually revise the terms and conditions, especially done it during the EOT. You find the EOT extension of time, we cannot get support. So the only way is we increase the access very high, sometimes to the extent of 10 times. Say, for example, access is 25,000, increase to 250,000, then only manage to place. Like that, no? That is sometimes to happen in some cases. And a certain type of works that we call tunneling work, wet risk work, demolition work, tall building, and so forth. You virtually cannot place. So you must have a separate access for this so-called special hazards risk. Okay? So that's the reason why we put in a different level access, not because we want to. Okay? So you find that these are the general condition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, claim procedure, 6, 7, 8, 9. So in total, you finalize, you put there like this. Okay? So basically, to sum it up, you find that the first condition is basically the insured, means the principal and contractor must observe terms and condition. 2 is a schedule section must be complied with. Insured must actually taken precautions. Usually 3, 4, and 5 are the conditions which insurers will reject a claim because you have failed to comply with the DOSH, failed to comply with the DOE, failed to comply with the public authorities, failed to comply with the OEM, the manufacturer's recommendations. Therefore, we fail. Okay. Number 4 is normally we do need to do something called inspection. And these are usually people like loss adjuster have to do it. So you must allow them to do. And for us, we come for survey. When we do survey, it's not that we want to, but once your progress is not going forward, we come and check, why, like that, or the claims have been a bit bad, why, like that. So we can come in anytime to do a survey. Sometimes you ask for a changes of sum insured called variation order, VO. When there's a variation order, you come to us, we also have to make sure that what are the main changes. And some of the changes, you'll be surprised, it is not the sum insured. The totally is called design changes. Example, Conley 8, Damai City Center. The design all changed because the piling was failing. So much so the building sengit like that during the COVID time. Sengit like that. No? So they had to do underpinning to bring back the building back to straight. Okay. Anyway, the principal had becomes bankrupt. Okay. So because of that, they sold it to a Japanese company, if I've been not wrong. Next, we go to what they call claim procedure, standard law. Notify every claim. Now, if you do not notify claims, then too bad. We will just put in the loss adjuster report to say we are not paying. As a loss adjuster, we do that. Okay. Subrogations is a recovery actions. Arbitration means after mediations, only then you proceed to arbitration. Mediation means between the insured and insurer, you settle it. You cannot settle it, then goes to the ombudsman. Cannot settle, then only go to court or arbitration. Normally, this dispute is over the what? Maybe they repeated the claims, maybe they because paid less, or maybe because of some things that they have issues. Okay, so they will settle it. In the past, arbitrations is only discussed when there is what they call a claims that you are dispute over amount. Nowadays, the lawyer are so hungry for business. even the claim have been repudiated, or any claims at all, you go for arbitration. So textbook tell you it's all wrong nowadays. The textbook tell you very fast, very cheap, and only for the dispute over the amount of loss. Today, no more. Okay, I handle some of those cases are arbitration, unlike that. Claim rejected also go for arbitration. Okay. Number 8 is actually fraudulent claim. If you can proven by the insurers, then fine. You use this to walk away from claims. Contribution is when there are many insurers involved, and sometimes a policy is arranged by the main con, some policy arranged by the subcon, and arranged by different insurers. Usually they do like that. And then they come together and they pay. So why you arrange a separate policy in the first place? So the guy don't know how to draft the policy. If you draft the policy correctly, there's no contribution. Okay, like for example, I did for MRT1, only that section in Selat Selatan where we insured 800 million. The rest is all insured by the MMC under Lonpack, you see. So, but the rest is not my problem. I only insured this one only. And the agent came to me and also my marketers, and then we finally quoted. And I quoted the rate is so much lower, less than 10 cents. And the excess is only 75,000. Although the main policy is million excess, and the rate is 28 cents, you know. So you can see the differences here. No? So it all depends how, because the moment I get to deal with a subcon, whatever information I ask for, they give it to us. But when I deal with MRT1 and MRT2, I cannot get a document, not a single document. When I raise a question in the forum, because they were talking to the whole public, all the insurers and the brokers and agents, I asked 2 questions, also tak boleh answer, because they are not the one who is doing the job. I asked for documents, tak boleh dapat. Okay, that's all. So always remember, go for the executing contractors that can aid everything for you. You get an Alibaba contractors, of course you cannot get. Alibaba contractors are those contractors that secure the job, but they don't do the job. Okay, let's dive into the sum insured. So you can see that these are the insured I just mentioned, so I'm not going to repeat. So basically, that's to highlight to you that there are section 1, section 2, and 3 and 4. Section 1 is basically section is these are all on new for all values. So when you cover the time, it's not only the material, you also cover the wages, the fee charges, the custom duties, and also material that is supplied by principal. Now, most of the time, we do not pay for material supplied by principal because you need to put a separate item, separate sum insured, not just put inside the contract value like that. If you really is a material supplied by is put under item 1, you have to inform the insurers and give them the split of values. Let's say, for example, the total contract value is 10 million and the principal value is 2 million. You have to give the split. Otherwise, the insurers will not take in consideration. So bear that in mind, okay? 2 and 3, I mentioned to you, it will not be insured anyway because most of them have no insurable interest. And number 4, a separate item if necessary. Then number 2, basis of loss settlement. Number 3 is essential cover. So for 2 is basically talking about, in case of basis of settlement, it will settle basing on what you paid. Usually all new for old. So we will not pay on indemnity, means we don't pay you and then minus deduct for depreciation. No such thing. All were new for old. The only thing is that we need to substantiate with the bills, document of repair, document of replacement, document of reinstatement, and so forth. Okay. And of course, they mentioned the last part, cost of alteration, addition, and improvement are not covered. This refer to item which is not damaged. Only items which is damaged, only we look into it, right? And number 3, memo 3 says extra extension cover. Now, this is not given you free. You must put in a clause only you can get free. That means you don't assume the policy jacket is covering you. The policy jacket says that we will cover you provided you have this clause inside the policy, okay? So this is called expediting clause. When we come to clauses, I will walk through with you. So then you have this special condition number 2. This is called escape clause. This escape clause says that whenever there's a claim with a third party and the insurers have negotiated with the third party and the third party accepted that I pay you 100,000, fine, we pay. But when we want to pay 100,000, the insurers say, no, we want to fight with the third party. And then this allow the insurers to park the 100,000 there with the lawyers, and they ask them to take over the lawyers, and then you're going to fight. As far as the insurance company is concerned, they will just walk away from the claim, pay the 100,000, and then bye-bye. Okay? So in a way, it's called an escape clause. Because anyway, it's already settled with the third party, but the insurers refuse to accept that. Oh, in case there's such a happening. Now we will stop here for 15 minutes, and then we come back. Meanwhile, just let me check whether any question here.
No,
Okay,
there's
there's no
no.
question.
15 minutes.
Okay, we'll stop here. 15 minutes. We come back at 11:10. Okay,
Okay. All right,
11:10.
everybody, 15 minutes.
Okay. So first is all these clauses from 1 to 27. You find that there's a number behind. That is the Minigri number. You may sometimes be able to get it from the Google if you type in the right clause, is it? Otherwise, sometimes you don't. But anyway, nevertheless, you still refer back to your insurance company. They have all this wording. Now, I will not be covering all this, but basically some of those that is relevant, we'll cover it. So if there's something that trick you or actually need you to state or clarify, just put in your chat box. Now, these are the clauses which is stated under the reinsurance company, where they make an arrangement to the insurance company to say that you write policies, I'm writing 99% and you're writing 1%. Therefore, you must make sure all these number 1 to 8 is all stated in your in your policies or whatever. So you find sometimes very funny all these clauses coming out in your policies which have no relevance to you. The reason is because they want to make sure that these are exclusions, making sure that the insurers will not pay to the insurance company. So that's the reason why they put it in. Okay. So I think most of the common one you had are aware as called communicable disease, called COVID, or any kind of disease. Communicable means that any kind of disease. The other one is actually called the sanction limitation. As you know, people ask why do sanction screening is because their reinsurers will not pay the insurance company arising from that. Okay. So I think these are the two most likely are the new one added on. Apart from that, I don't see any new one. Okay. So nose application, I put there 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, but the sixth one I won't be touching at all. I will just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's dive in. Now these are some of the clauses that you find in the required where people will ask for it. Right and strike, cross liability. Now cross liability clause is a compulsory clause. Okay. Then visits nobody uses now. You only uses for extended maintenance because the visits is already embedded into the extended maintenance in one part. Visit means the obligations to do remedial work, which I mentioned just now, part A. Part A is already part in that inside the extended maintenance, so you don't have to. Then 113 is talking about inland transit. Then the other 5, 7, and 8 I just mentioned here is just to help you to know that your policy will need it. Generally speaking, these 1 to 8 are very commonly asked for. Okay, so basically to sum it up, the right and strike wording is quite long, but to sum it up, I'll say that this right and strike actually do occur. It must have the something that actually create it, which is called the disturbances, and then there's a people to suppress it. These are called the right police. So long as these damages happen, then the policies will trigger if you have this clause wording. Okay, standard wording, right and strike is excluded. Okay, so but you want to extend it, you need to put in this wording. And usually insurance, when they put in this clause, they will put in a sub limit, maybe 1 million, 2 million, whichever. If they do not put in or forgot to put in, then the total contract value will be the sub limit. Okay, so I'm not going to the very detail of it. Cross liability will simply say that it must be a compulsory clause mentioned. It treats that all the principal, the main contractor, and all the subcontractor, although they are called first party, when it comes to the section 2, all this party, the first party will become third party. So which means to say subcontractor A can sue subcontractor B, C, D, E, A, and also the main contractor as well as the principal. Because if they have anything that is created by somebody and they can sue them. Okay. So let's say subcontractor A have been carrying some items and then drop and then cause injury to other people, which is subcontractor B as well as to the works. Now the works you don't have to worry because it's covered under section 1. It's a damage, any bodily injury, if it's covered under workman and so then taken care. But what if it hit somebody called a subcontractor B, subcontractor C, items, insured items, like for example, they bring in the compressor set, they bring in the welding set, and this was damaged as a result of the maybe the injury or the something dropped from the sky caused by the contractor A, so they can sue them. So in short, this actually will make it easier for everybody to know that although the policies they are considered as first party, but we will treat them as third party in this case as a result of cross liability. So making sure that every claims virtually they will be responding to it. You cannot claim that this is done by subcontractor A or therefore I don't pay, because they are called the insured. No such thing. Okay. So the visit I mentioned already. So is the extended maintenance. So extended maintenance talking to you just now is about this cover A and part B. So no need to explain any further because these are all quite standard. In UK, they call it limited maintenance cover in case you are using the UK wording. So the wording which I'm going to go through with you is just the Munich Re wording, a German wording. Okay. So usually they put at 24 months. In case of government project, they put there 3 months plus 14 days. Now, topping up clause is something that they increase the contract value. Now, in London, the contract value, let's say, for example, is 100,000. They put a 10% uplift is already in the policy jacket. Whereas in Malaysia, the Munich Re wording, we don't have this. So therefore, you need to put in the topping up clause so that they put in an extra 10%. Now, this is don't attract additional premium. However, if there really are significant changes of sum insured, it is actually need to inform insurers within 30 days. Okay. And then after that, you have the pro rata increase the contract value. Usually the increase is because of a standard instruction called variation order. Okay. So therefore we will increase it. So say for example, contract value 100 million, your contract value is always 110 million, always. So the moment you know that there is a significant change and really with a variation order, then you only pass an endorsement. Otherwise, your policy all the while is 100 million plus 10%. Let's say for example, 100% plus 10%. Inland transit is not a cover in the policy, but you can extend it. This will exclude the waterways by A and by C. The one on land will be covered. This is mainly for local contents that is within the region. So those from overseas are usually they're covered under the marine cargo. All right. Again, you put a limit. So remote debris I've mentioned already, so I'll just skip these two. Now coming to the second part is talking special conditions. So actually special condition means that they actually apply them for what reason? So that imposes on the contractor to follow certain SOP, standard operating procedure. So the first one is talking about time schedule. So usually during the wet season, they ask them to stop work. In fact, those uncompleted work, you need to protect them. However, they allow the contractors to say you can deviate, maybe only instead of stopping work in October due to the monsoon, maximum we allow you to deviate maybe 4 weeks. So from October becomes November. Boleh lah. That is what they do. But you must have this clause to allow you to move your construction time schedule. Okay. And for this special condition for concerning safety measures with respect to precipitation, flood, and inundation, these are talking about flood. So generally speaking, is that we do cover this flood, but you must make sure the material where you store them in the site must be raised above the first 1:20 years flood return period. So you have to determine that this is actually in the higher land, not near to the river, not near to the sea and all that. No, so must be higher ground. That's what it means. Otherwise, the policy will not trigger. Usually, it's mainly for flooding. For firefighting facilities, it's a bit hard to comply, so you must make sure whether the client can comply before you actually engages this. Usually, I put in bold these 3 items which you need to look at is permit to work system. Do you follow or not? Most of the larger contractors, they will follow. Okay, for smaller job, no. The second one is actually, you see, it's called a safety coordinator. There is somebody dedicated to do the checking on the safety and of this site so that they don't allow any trespassers to come in, to make sure that everybody must wear safety boots and all those. Those climbing higher must wear harnesses and so forth. Okay, and also wear a hard hat. And the other area is that these firefighting facilities also include security. So there must be fence up. Now, not every contract site I've seen is fence up, especially those double-story houses, no fencing one. Okay, so therefore you sometimes see whether can comply or not. If you cannot comply that, then you may have to modify this. To have to talk to the insurance company how to modify it. That means to say that you will take away this item and put a special condition for the security only. Okay, but generally speaking, most of these theft actually are one of the major exposure of losses in CAR. Okay, these are the wording, 2 pages. Then the other one is the 107 talking concerning camps and store. Now, you may sometimes have this so-called store around the vicinity, but they allow you to store, but they put a limit. Usually the limit is only maximum 250,000. which means to say if you put $500,000, 5 million, which we have seen claims happening before, the insurance will still pay you, but they'll limit the camp and store for fire up to 250,000. It's not that they don't pay, it's just that they pay up to. So sometimes it can be damaged by flood, and sometimes can be damaged by fire. Okay. So again, they mentioned here limitation. Now the other one is called special exclusion. I mentioned to you the policy wording has very limited exclusion. So because the policy had been poorly drafted many years ago, and they never changed ever since, now they put in this extra 5. Okay. The first one is talking about this so-called digging underground works. So this is to say that we will not pay, we will not indemnify if you have what they call change of the way you do the job. The scope of work change. The method of doing work is changed. For example, by right, you should use what they call auger pile, bore piling. You go and change it to what using sheet pile, or maybe using what they call driven pile, and that is not payable. Okay. So the other thing is talking about the ground conditions, making sure that you check first before you undertake the work, and not just straight away go and do the work. So there must have some professionalism. And for those who are digging tunneling or making some tunnel, making sure you don't use dynamite. You must use a manual way of doing it. Otherwise, you can cause overbreak. And for those who have a pool of water, they must make sure you have a standby pump. They're called dewatering system. Okay. And you cannot abandon the loss to the insurance company. And when you're doing piling, sometimes you use those material called lubrication material called bentonite and slurry materials. They can disappear or lost in the ground. So therefore, these are called what they call trade risks. They will not be paying for this. Okay. Then I mentioned earlier about underground cargo clause. This is actually applied. The main aim is not just apply the excess, but to ensure the client take reasonable care to detect and trace those cables and underground services pipes, and then call the contractors. And at the same time, they want to exclude what they call consequential loss and penalties. And for water supply and sewer pipes, basically, they mentioned here is about how long, because you cannot just open the trench, open trench, and you lay the pipe. Sometimes they do allow, especially those big pipes. So when you do that, you need to cover it. You cannot be permanently open up the trenching for a few kilometers. So they limit the recommended length to maybe 100 meters or maybe 200 meters or thereabout. Not so long. Okay. So these are mainly for those that are using open trench work. And for piling with foundation retaining wall, the whole policies clause here says that we will not cover in case of misalignment, misplacing, jamming piles, or piles already cracked, and so forth. All these are excluded. Okay, so you have to get the guy who is actually is competent to do the job, and you do something that you reinstate back the dimension. This is actually a poor design. So poor design is not covered under this policy. So virtually they push in all these claims that will not be covered as long as it's not done professionally. Then the other one is talking about HDD, just I mentioned to you. So this HDD basically is telling you that I'm going to give you this cover, but we will exclude things like this because they're going underground. So going underground, sometimes you can miss the target, or maybe you have also some damages to the existing insulation of your pipe going inside. Your pipe is going from A point to B point, but the pipes, when they come out from that side, becomes damaged on the outer right. That is called a trade risk. Okay, so we will not cover. And part B saying the loss or change of drilling, but meaning these are the lubricants. If it's lost, also we don't cover. Okay. So the fourth part is saying that insurers have state a limit of liability, meaning they will still pay, but they want to put a limitation. So the limitation here is maximum is they put there. I put 100 meters only, meaning that when you do road works, if there are any of this so-called landslide or whatever they call it benching work, there can sometimes be more than 100 meters, but they want to limit the sections, knowing that the section can be many meters away. So it can be sometimes 1 kilometers. So the answer is that they want you to actually, the moment you do this type of work, to make sure you mitigate, make sure you actually do not have these so-called losses arising from your work. So you have to actually maybe, like example, the profile not 90 degrees, maybe 45 degrees, no? So therefore, they put a maximum length for this maximum due to any of this work done by the contractor. And these wet risks are mainly for rivers and in the sea. So many people just see anything wet and they put that. That is not right, because we always refer back to the normal action of the sea. That is actually when there's a design. So when you design this clause, usually what they do is they ask the engineers and architect, what is the maximum wave height of the sea, that you are designing it. So if they design it up to certain meters, they put down there, okay, are designed up to 5.5 meters height. So anything below the 5.5 meters height of the wave is considered as normal action of the sea. So that's how they define it. So when I turn to the next slide for you, just to show it to you, it means normal means up to the Beaufort scale of 8 on the top hand definition. Okay. So basically, this is something that a lot of people may not even go into details. Okay, but I'm not going to go very detailed for you. So here we put a maximum line. For example, we build a breakwater, and the breakwaters must be completed on time. But you come to a point that you cannot finish within 1 year. Then the monsoon come. Sometimes take 2 years, sometimes take 3 years. So therefore, those uncompleted work you need to protect. So the insurers will put there a limit. If the insurers don't put a limit of 100 meters, that means it's the black and white called 200 meters. No? Okay. So other works which they don't want to cover is like loss of soil, storm, they need to do redredging and dredging and redredging and so forth. And piling works are doing in the sea will not be covered at all. Okay. And also specifically they mentioned that we will not cover marine liability. Marine liabilities are talking about port operators liability, stevedores liability, maybe also the warehousing liability, and only liability that is around in the vicinity of the sea. Okay, so like for example, you are the one operating around the sea. So that is a marine liability taken under special policy by the operators. So it's not under this policy. And there's a warranty when you do this, is that when you're in the sea, you must make sure that you communicate with the meteorology department and also make sure that you check with the port authorities every 12 hours in case there's an imminent storm. Imminent storm means a storm may come, and by the time it comes, you cannot take action already. So they always keep in touch with them every 12 hours. And they always must prepare a buffer stock or buffer area of 200 meters to allow vessels to pass through. So just take note that this actually is only applied mainly for in the open sea and near to the sea or rivers. Other clauses that we have seen that is most common I mentioned here is actually overtime. This is actually expediting clause. You can see that there's a limit covered here. The limit here usually they put in is that I will cover you, but the limit that we pay for this overtime is maximum is 10% of the loss. Assuming the loss is 100,000, we're not paying her 100,000, but we pay only 10,000 on top of the 100,000 loss. So this overtime now is like given free. It's basically give you another 10,000 on top of 100,000, meaning we're giving you 110,000 losses only. Okay, so it's giving free, but we do not include air freight charges. But you want to include air freight charges, then you have used MR007, whereby you give you another separate clause. All right. So here the deductible will be slightly higher because it is by air. Okay. Property in off-site storage. Normally, when we talk about contract site, it's a location which you know where is it. But here I'm talking about off-site, means it is not even stated in the policy. And many times you do not even know. And in short, it is not covered. But so happen you know that they have not enough space. You want to occupy the next site nearby, maybe to locate all your items. You can do it. Let's say, for example, the quarters where you stay, the machineries where you need to put in, the materials you need to put there. All these are called offsite. Okay. So again, they put a sub limit, maybe 100,000, 250,000. That's the maximum. And also sometimes offsite fabrication could be further away. This fabrication means that they fabricate the material. It's not storage. Then for EAR, you have the testing and commissioning period of 4 weeks. But in the CAR, you don't have testing. So I mentioned earlier that if we do have a CR that include testing and commissioning, then this clause will come in handy. So it's just to give you a flavor that we want to cover this. Okay. Designer risk, normally they don't cover it. So if you want to cover, the maximum insurance can give is only resultant damage. That means the things that is designed wrong, we don't pay. But because of the wrong, they collapse. For example, the roof collapsed. But the roof is not cured yet. That's why it collapsed. But the items which is done properly or executed properly on the higher floor is damaged. But it's not something that you have thought of. So we will pay only the 4th floor. But the thing that is damaged due to the roof, we will not pay for. So that's virtually saying that the resultant damage we pay. But the thing which acted upon, we will not pay. So insurance will put always a deductible, usually higher deductible, maybe a sub-limit, and also what they call additional premium may be charged for this. Okay. Contract works taken over and put in service are usually not covered. But if sometimes they do, example, they have the road works been done, first they have to clear the land. After they clear the land, what do the contractor do? They leave the premises entirely. Then the next contractor comes in already. So who will be responsible? So therefore, what I'm saying is that sometimes they have this type of issues that they have built this area and somebody take over. So therefore, this works which is taken over and completed and put into service. Example, the car park has been completed, then you use the car park, although the building is still under construction. So when people park the car there, will it be covered? No? So you still collect the money for car park charges and all that. So therefore, this is considered as taken over. So when that is taken over already, of course, we're not going to pay for this since it's running. Now, what happens when you're doing construction? Then the podium block and also the tower block, you created a fire. And then this fire caused what? Injury and bodily injury to third party, as well as fire damage to the property which is handed over, which is the car park. So can we pay this? Because of this 116, we pay the losses to the car park, which is already handed over. So the fire policies underwriters will say, you go after them, you do come after me. So that is what is called this. So it's something extra for the insured to think about. Okay. Principal existing property is basically saying that property is belonging to principal. When we insure the contract works, we don't insure the principal property. So, but you want to extend the cover, you need to do two things. Number one is you need to do exercise of doing what they call pre-existing damages first, checking first, delapse survey. Okay. Then only they request for the cover. Now, if there's a loss to this principal existing property, unfortunately, we're not going to just pay like that. We only pay provided it is actually what they call a total loss or partial loss. That means a total damage, total collapse of the building or partial collapse. Total collapse means the building fall down already. Partial collapse means the occupants must leave the premises because it is actually endangering the people inside. So it is usually issued by the public authorities to do that. So then only the claims will trigger. Okay. So again, we put there a first loss sum insured because we can't insure the full contract value or full amount of the principal existing property. So usually the sum insured we will recommend would be the same as the third party limit. If the third party limit is 1 million, we recommend 1 million. If third party 5 million, we recommend 5 million. Again, there's no hard and fast rule. Vibration removal frequency of support is exclusion under the policy under CAR. So, but some people want to buy back the cover. So when you buy back the cover, yes, we can extend it, but we put a sub limit again. Then second thing is that we do two things again, same like the principal surrounding property, is that you have to do the delapse survey. And the other thing is that the property that is damaged to a third party must be partially collapsed or totally collapsed. Okay, again, that is mentioned that they may impose a slightly higher excess. Okay, this manufacturer risk is actually something more or less like a designer risk resultant damage, but applies to erection or risk only. Okay. Now coming to the policy period, which I covered just now, I just expand a little bit more for those who may need to know more. So I put here 5 items. And before I do that, let me just check any question from the floor. Okay, no question. Then I dive into it. So number 1 is basically the military power, just I mentioned to you. Let's dive into it now. The period cover basically did not mention maintenance, right? Okay, these are all stated already. So let's dive into this. So tender, okay, letter award, then commencement. These are usually the starting point. And after which you find that the construction period is this, okay? And if you have not able to hand over, sometimes in between the commencement period, they hand over what they call the construction period. This is called certificate of partial completion, meaning that the contractor or the subcontractor handling, let's say the piling work, when they finish the job already. And then after that, come to the next one is called the other contractors dealing with maybe the longkang la, and also the other laying of cables and so forth. And there could be many more certificate of partial completion, but it is not considered as handed over. So this will pass back to the what they call the principal submitting person, PSP. These principal submitting person are usually called the draftsman, engineer, or the architect. So they carry a very high responsibility. Okay. So after which we come to the expiry date, which is called a certificate of compliance and certificate of completions. And most people understand what we mean by CCC. That's to hand over to the principal. So the principal will take over. Okay. And then you buy an operational policy cover, that's fire, public liability, and all other relevant insurance required. But sometimes you cannot complete on time. Then what happens? Then you ask for EOT during that period. And that EOT depends on how long you finish. And therefore your maintenance period will push forward. Okay? Because your construction period has pushed forward already, so your maintenance push forward. So you won't change the maintenance period in 24 months always. So by the time you finish already and the maintenance period also finish, then only they issue a certificate of making good defects. Okay, so that is what they usually do. So going a bit more detail, you find that the construction period usually slide like this. You find that there was 4 weeks testing. So we cannot just assume that it's covered. Okay. So basically, construction period is usually talking about testing period is 4 weeks. Okay, usually for construction. So you will see that the testing period fall within the construction period. So maintenance period is by itself is actually operational already. Therefore, you have to buy operational risk insurance and the final acceptance and making good defects, depending on when this is considered as finished. Sometimes this maintenance period may be extended further because it is not up to the satisfaction of the architect. Okay. And the last one here is telling you that there's sometimes what they call the testing period fall within the durations. The other thing is that they have to do something what they call immediately doing fit out works. And finally, you need to also know where is the testing period. And you find that the testing period is sometimes you have what they call the functional testing period called cold test. This is switch on, switch off only. The other one they call the actual hot testing, which is actually sometimes takes longer than 2 weeks. Maybe 4 weeks will be the minimum, and some will be up to 6 months. Okay. So this is to define for you that the testing period sometimes can be cold test and hot testing. Okay. So never use the cold test as a part of the testing period. So generally, you find that most of the CR policies will have a defective life period, but you do not find EAR policies. There's no maintenance period. Usually, they finish, that's it already. You install a boiler. Once the boiler is installed already, you operate, that's it. What is there to maintain the machine? Machine I'm talking about. No, that's why there's no such thing as defects. What do they have is called warranty. Okay, so generally period is a contractor exposure is reduced always the time during the maintenance period. So upon that, they will take over possessions and so forth. Generally, most of the time that we see in maintenance period, people have a claim, could be mainly that say defects done during the construction period. And some of the contractors asked me to go and see him. That was only not too long ago. That's about 3-4 years ago. And this is requested by insurance company. So I just go and help them, absolutely just for my experience also. And I highlight to them that the policy will not pay. You know? So then I suggested them to get a professional engineers to determine what was the loss, why the damages are like that. Okay. So most of the time when you see the word CCC, CPC, people get confused. Nowadays, CCC replaces CFO. You will never see the certificate of fitness and occupation because the majorities will not issue any more CFO forever and ever. Why? Because the bureaucracy is high. Bureaucracy means delay, and you cannot hand over the property to the insured for staying. So the CC now take over already. I can't remember the date. I think it's maybe 1996 or 2006, I think. Okay. It indicates the property is safe to occupy, CCC, meaning that who issued this is always the architect or engineers or the draftsman. It's a transformation to called self-certifications or self-regulating issue system. Just similarly like you attend a class, you get CPD. It's called self-certification. Okay. Similarly, for those like in this case, it's called self-certification. Okay. CCC is basically granted by PSP, called Principal Submitting Person. Usually, it's called a registered professional. These registered professionals are called building draftsmen, professional architects, and engineers. Okay. All of them are registered under the Registration Architect Act and Engineering Act. The PCP will also have to follow or meet some of the public authorities guideline, which is the BOMBA, Electricity Board, Water Utility Board, Telecommunication, Road and Drainage, Sewerage, and so forth, and making sure the building is safe and for occupations. Sorry about that typing mistake. Okay, PSP accept full responsibility for the issuance of the CCC. Once they have any issues, they are responsible. No longer the MPAJ, DBKL, and no more. Okay, so it's actually called a very efficient public delivery system because you can straight away take over the building and buy insurance and move in already. So the whole idea is to reduce bureaucratic procedures in the local department. As you know, you deal with government, you vomit blood, isn't it? Today, no more already because we are going into digital. Now, PSP shall issue instruction to contractors detailing all defective works that a contractor must complete prior to issue CPC. So therefore, it's not so straightforward that you want a CPC. CPC means Certificate of Practical Completion. Everything team is called CPC. It's not easy to get that. You must team all the defects. That is the last, very, very last page. Okay. Whenever you see a client, you only get CCC. So why I'm showing you this G1 to G21? Because the PSP, the engineers architect, have to fill one by one and submit to the municipal. If let's say belongs to the JKR, you submit to JKR. Belongs to Bomba, you submit to Bomba for the firefighting G8 and G9. And then belonging to the sewage system, they submit it for this sewage system. Water system, Shabas, you send the G13. And then the street lighting, VID, you send to a G17 and 18, something like that. So all these have to be done until the last one called 21. If one of them not completed, you don't get your CCC. Okay. So when you talk about CCC and CPC, it's actually what you call construction process permit. When you talk about building construction process, it's called CPC. It depends what do you want, you know. So usually you can find the one word called certified form G1 to G21. Who signed this? All these are signed by the PSP. Okay. So the construction period will move from the pre-consult until finally you finish all this. Then at the same time, the CCC and CPC is the same, but it's still not completed yet. Okay. So there's called only when you've completed that DLP, and then you get a certificate of making good defects, CMGD, only then they give you the full completion. Okay. So therefore, it is not so straightforward. So the certificate of making good defects is basically marks the end of the defects liability period. It demonstrates that the contractor has fulfilled all the obligations under the contract regarding defects rectifications. It allows the contractor to reclaim any remaining retention money. Usually they keep 5%. For those people who say I issue policies later and then I give you that, so they cannot collect the 5% because they cannot show the policy. If they cannot show Berjaya policy for CAR policy, they cannot collect back the 5%. Then number 3 is 0. It will be walloped by the principal. Okay, I mean this JKL and all those guys. A certificate of making good defects confirm that the contractor has completed all necessary repairs, notifications, rectification defects identified during the defect liability period of the construction period. Okay. So extension of time. So basically, you can see that extension of time is not so straightforward because it must be by request. So generally, I guys mentioned to you that this is not so straightforward. Therefore, this extension of time is not an automatic granted. Consent from insurers is required because they need to refer to the reinsurance and co-insurance. Usually, co-insurers will normally agree, but the reinsurers, I dare not say. The reinsurance I'm referring to is not, I'm talking about insurance company. They are actually called professionally. They only do reinsurance business. These are the guys where you place the business with them. So during my time, I find absolutely very difficult to deal with them. Absolutely difficult. Okay. So I try not to place reinsurance to them if far possible, but only place it directly with co-insurance or reinsurance with the insurance company. Okay. Generally, the terms and conditions may not change over time, even for EOT. It's just pro rata. However, I will load the premium when there's a poor loss experience. However, I also load premium when there's a variation or the change of design, change of values. Okay. And sometimes I just want to whack because towards the end, you are completed about 90%. So therefore, the chances of fire, burglary, and maybe other losses are quite high, and including flood. These are the issues. So partial handover, you find that when the subcontractor work is completed, it will hand it over to the principal or his architect engineer, which is called a PSP. The PSP will then issue the form G1 to G21 all the way. The CR insurance continue to cover such partial taking over by the main contractor, although PSP had issued G1 to G4 forms like earthwork, piling, partial completed structure. So we cannot say that G1 form finish is the first few. No? Usually they started with earthwork, then piling, and that is called a partial completed structure. As far as we're concerned, the work is not handed over. So who is responsible? The PSP is still responsible. The insurance-wise is still in force, okay, all the way. Okay, so just to write for you, this will give you a flavor of how the works actually operates, okay? Okay, there's no question. Let's dive back into the risk management and loss prevention. So for risk management, you find that the risk identifications and the contract side, loss prevention and risk management are the 3 items which I have selected. So the first one is talking about how are you identified. Most of us actually, you just take the business, issue the policies, and then collect your commission. For me, I have to do a lot of work. My work starts only from there. So usually I don't do survey. The first thing I do is I see the customers, with you or with the brokers. And you'll be surprised that sometimes I don't see the agent also. And then I close the business for them. Okay. That is, I'm talking when I was still the person in charge. So usually what I do is I ask for documents to make sure the work is done. When it comes to demolishing work, it's very tough. So I will have to go and do a site survey myself personally, take photographs, because I need to entice or solicit cover. The cover means I need to get reinsurance to help me. And reinsurance, whether it's a direct company or reinsurance company, they want to see where is the site, what is exposure, and are they too close to the areas that you're concerned, isn't it? What are the third parties also we need to write? Sometimes we have to draw some diagram for them. Usually a common site survey is mainly carried out for pre-existing survey, and it is not done by me, not done by you. Usually we just pay to loss adjuster, which is the cheapest, or you pay it to professional engineer, which is the highest. Okay, up to you. Okay, they will undertake the job for you. Okay, but at a cost. And usually these photographs are taken on all angles. Sometimes photographs can come out to about 300 or 400 photographs everywhere. So they charge you per photograph how much? So that's why it's not cheap. Okay. Then every photograph will show you all the defects. Sometimes it could be 1,000 defects. They take 1,000 defects, 1,000 photographs. Okay, all the way. For larger and difficult construction risks, usually wet risks, construction, like building the KL118, the spire, sometimes we need to see them. Although we may not understand fully how they do, but we ask for the method statement. Method statement means how do you build? You cannot make assumption. Making assumption is very dangerous, okay? Because we are the eyes and ears for the reinsurers and direct insurers, okay? So most of the time when we undertake this job, we try to do it ourselves rather than pass it to a professional engineer. Because the engineer knows what they're doing, but they're non-insurance people, that's the problem. So it's very hard for us to convince people because the engineer report, no good. So that's why we sometimes either follow with them or we do it ourselves. Where the work is located on a congested area, site survey is recommended and to discuss with them on the reasonable safety precautions. Similarly, for those demolition work, sorry about typing error, demolition work and basement construction more than 2 levels. Okay, I type very fast on all this. So the other thing that we look at is besides just doing a site survey, we look at how we recommend loss prevention. Because at the end of the day, we don't want a claim. So the first time if we do survey is around 50% completed to 75%. Example, the Mid Valley completed 50%, I go there already. TBS completed of 50%, I go there already. And 75% completed, then they say, I got a cantilever bridge, then I go again. Okay, it all depends on what level you want. So before you go, you must ask for the progress report. And for those Aklik, for example, you drive to Ampang, those driving to Ampang, Aklik, I have to do a survey, but I can't do all, so therefore, because very time consuming. Normally, this is done by surveyor, not by underwriter. So when I was an underwriter, I also do survey. Okay, so that's how I pick out all the learning skill from the ground. So no books will teach you. It's all coming directly from my hands-on. Okay, so this loss prevention survey usually I talk to the engineers at the site. These are those guys who are working for construction, and I want to draw out how long you need to complete this, what improvement you need to do, what are the things that you need to deal with, how do you deal with the theft, how do you deal with the accidental damage, and so forth. All these are checked with them. Okay. At the end of the day, then we come up with a solution. The solution is, as insurance company, we look at what are exposure: flood, fire, explosion, theft, third-party property damage, isn't it? So we zoom in all this, and then we ask them. And towards the 95% completion, we'll go there again. Because most of the claim we on near completion will be theft, burglary, testing, mechanical, electrical, and sometimes fire. And when it comes to stealing, you'll be surprised sometimes can be 10 claims, 20 claims, and 100 claims. And that's what happened to MRT one. 100 claims of theft claim, almost towards the 100% completed. 100 claims incident of loss, not one claim, 100 for MRT 1 and 100 claims for MRT 2. Whether they are payable is not important. The important is there are 100 claims. Okay, so we can see that these are the issues that maybe is a collusion between the contractor themselves with a third party. How to steal a $1 million ringgit claims in one occasion? All these are cables. You can never steal 1 million cables in a one day. Okay, so this is where we always go back and check with them. Most of these claims we just throw it away, and they will never come back. The other one is the risk management. For risk management, virtually what you do is we targeted high sum insured or building construction. Usually these are called data center. Now you know JB have a lot of JB that kind of slang also have a lot. Even in up to Outlaw Star also got, where fire exposure is considerable. Basically, this is actually not an issue. It's just a building. But when you go inside and see for yourself, all cables everywhere, you know, all you need just one fire during the testing and maintenance period, like commissioning period, then it's bye-bye. Okay. So they have to do it with the experts around, usually. And they run for many months. So for medium-sized contract and smaller projects, usually we have regular project monitoring and we don't do it. So what we do is we either get a third party to do it for us, called engineer, or sometimes we ask the insured to give us their progress report. And this progress report come either monthly or quarterly basis. And usually I ask for monthly for very large projects, such as MRT, Pan Borneo, as well as those, let's say, KL118. We will ask for monthly. And usually they have it. Okay. Insurers and reinsurers will always ask for ad hoc project risk management report because they are the one who is the one who pay all the claims. The insurers are not paying the claims. Do you know that? The insurers only in custody, they're helping the reinsurers to pay the claim. Because most of the insurers are taking a very small share. Okay. Usually the shares are taken up by most of the reinsurers. So therefore, the risk management exercise are actually done in accordance to the reinsurers. Those were the days in the 80s, 90s, and year 2000. We see a lot of professional reinsurance companies taking share. They will do survey. Nowadays, today, the reinsurers are not up to the standard. I'm very sorry to say that because they're not up to standard because they don't have any reinsurers to do the survey. Okay. So any overrun or delay projects can be very costly to the stakeholder due to the additional labor costs, inflation of materials, additional insurance costs for project extension of time. Okay. So this is where we think that important that we always highlight to the client. So the projects which is overrun, sometimes they are aware, for example, like MRT, the only thing is that the government give a lot of emphasis for MRT. That's why it is able to continue even during the COVID. Do you know that? Okay. So for the projects which is not like roadworks, Suki is a roadwork, Dash is a roadwork, and also this all these roadworks, they are basically what they call continuing during the COVID. The works that is not continuing are those which is working in the building site, usually. So for claims handling, you find that there are very common causes of loss. Okay, so basically before I jump into that, I just highlight to you what are the areas of concern on claims. So the area of concern of claims, let me just dive into it. Basically, you find is fire, burglary, act of God, and third party. I'm not going to go through all this, but basically you find that most of the claims coming from are smoking. And the worst part is most of them are cooking. Cooking are the one that cause fire rather than what you expect. Burglary claim, plenty. So the only way out is that only we allow them to have one door. Let's say, for example, you build Times Square. Times Square got a lot of door, but only one door only. We don't allow them to have many doors. One door go in, one door go out. We don't care because that's the only way for the security guard to watch them. Okay. So sometimes when they steal those which are parked near the guard house. So of course they have guard there, so no problem. The third one is actually act of God, which you know, these are something that we are usually cope on. We are very lucky in Malaysia because we are free from all those natural calamity. The only thing that you see flood is not those flood from the sea called tsunami. What we see is just raining only. Raining also flood. Flood, then you get the claim. Okay. So when we were doing the KL118, I was so worried because any one leaf get water in contact with them during the construction, I have to pay almost 1 million. And there are about 60 over leaf. So I told my bosses there'll be 60 or million, one failure, cow team you, So you prepare a 60 or million claim, no problem. Okay. So third party is another problem with construction risk. And most of these, the danger here is not the third party amount. We just set the reserve and then we fight, But the only thing is, it takes 6 years to close the file. Okay, 6 long years. And we will close the file if there's no further action. FYA, just close, just like that. Okay. So basically, these third party claims are nuisance and noise. And basically, these are something that they will submit to you. But anyway, they will not pursue. So we just lock it in and then put it one side. The only claims that I've seen that is more difficult is that they actually really the water ingress into the third party, or maybe some material flow into the third party, like during the earthwork. where the earthwork flow to the third party, or when they do a retaining wall, the retaining wall break into two, all the earthwork flow. That is an imminent exposure we have to pay. So we set a very high reserve of 500,000 or even more. Okay, but that is can happen. The other losses are fire, which I mentioned to you. We use the clause 112 just to deal with it. Okay, how do we deal with it? We discuss all these points basically. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that. But the important point is many people do not realize that they do not know how to use fire extinguishers, and the fire extinguishers are not everywhere. It is don't know where. They keep all in the store. You know, you don't believe me, you go to the site. Where is the fire extinguisher? Summa da suddenly goes in the store. You know, they are not like a factory everywhere distributed. You don't predict they will happen. Okay. Then the other thing is they do welding set cutting. They just do like that only. So they never observe hot work permit system. Okay, so that is the major exposure. And cooking. So for burglary, I mentioned to you, you need to have what they call guards. But you'll be surprised, even though we don't have fencing for those double-story houses and so forth, especially landed property, there are not many claims. The reason is because the contractor pay to the thugs some money. These thugs will look after their material, whether on the road, public road, or in the housing estate. You do not see any theft one because they have to pay every month money to those guys, because these are the guys who will steal from you. Okay, so in a way, like you have to pay them. You don't pay them, your claims will keep coming. So generally, I find that the only thing that we can do about this survey on theft is only when there's one particular building and with what they call hoarding around the premises. For open-sided one, that means a double-story houses, you don't expect fencing. There's no fencing one. The fencing only come always at the last, when you already occupied the house, only start to build fencing only. Do you realize that? No? Okay. So the other thing is, as I mentioned to you, we use 110 as one of the way to deal with the claims. Nothing more. Okay. And the other one is the fire. Fire, usually you also put another access called the camps and store, which is limited to 250,000. And for those losses you're handling with the sea work and also river work, we will put in the wet risk clause. And for piling works, we always put a special condition 121 clause, and vibration weakening supports 112 clause. So how we introduce clause is depending on whether you have this exposure or not. The moment you have this, you find the insurance will inject all these clauses. So generally, I cannot say it's high or low. It all depends on the expertise of the contractor. Usually, we don't have a problem with contractors who are experts. But even those experts, I don't want to mention name, the one in IKEA 118, out of the piling they've done, I think they're about 30%, 30% of all the piles are called defective. Okay, is to have to pull out and then redo all over again. Okay, just to let you know, even the most expert contractor also faces this problem, because I think they are good, but I don't know, somehow they are like that. I don't know, understand. Okay, so the other thing is the retaining wall works, many claims, especially those guys have not done the job because they don't have piling one. No. Retaining walls is a wall, and the wall can move or can rotate one, and can open in between one. So therefore, it's a problem. The other one is called the deep excavation. Nowadays, you can't find deep excavation. My time, I find a lot of deep excavation because they go like Sogo. Behind Sogo is actually what they call the UOB. The piling is actually built until 5-story below ground. Times Square around this Imbi Road is about 5-story below ground. Kenanga Warehouse City is about 5-story high. Everything five. And then Mid Valley, 5-story below ground. So all 5-story below ground. So when you deal with this type of risk, sometimes we just have to say bye-bye, puppet you. Okay. When we did the TRX, no one. We did the groundwork. They dig deep inside, then the groundwork here. So the earthwork, so there's no problem there. When they build the piling very fast, So that's a different aspect. But in fact, it's about close to 6 to 10-story below ground. You don't realize it. It's 6 to 10-story below ground when we did that earthwork. The whole earthwork is done by me. My company did the whole work for TRX, 100%. Okay. So these are something that we have to think about how we actually been so successful. The one thing that's successful is that because the contractor have observed what we have mentioned to them. Secondly, we told them the access will increase from time to time. Thirdly, we want to see your metal work before you start work. All this. So when we talk to them, we talk like an engineer. So that they know that we mean business. Okay. So the other thing that we deal with now is how to handle the claims. Three things that you need to know is about the condition of the policy. Okay. And then, of course, the insurance obligations. So I put in 3 points here. The first one is notification of loss. Always remember there's a time frame. When I was a loss adjuster, I see most of the claims is always on the dot. But they have also claimed 3 months to 6 months. For those 3 to 6 months, we just throw it out. As a loss adjuster, we just put there. We leave it to insurers to decide what you want to do with it. As far as you're concerned, they breach the policy condition under this blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay. So just bear in mind that the condition 4 is very strict. So if you do not inform them, you have a problem. The other one is sometimes the contractor have a material damage claims. It's not third party. And then they did not do anything. And then they repair everything already. After that, repair everything, they send a claim to you. Again, this is more than 6 months old. So to us, we do not even see the claims. We don't know how the claims happen. Maybe there's just a material. There's simply nothing there for us to see. So make our life as a loss adjuster very simple. Okay. So for claim notification, you find that there are 9 conditional policy, of which 8 of them are like that. Okay. So one of them is actually give immediate notice, report to police and come out theft, and carry out actions to prevent further losses in respect to what they call damage. We want to escalate the damages. Submit to the insurers within specific time frame of all the detailed statement of writing, loss, damage, and estimated loss, documents, and informations. Then recover from the property loss adjusters, loss, and also inform the insurers. Try to get it from the supplications. And then, of course, seek recovery action as much as possible. And insurers, as far as concerned, we will never apply betterment unless there's a real improvement in the machinery. Most of the time, we pay you new for old because the policy is always new for old. And the sum issue is also new for old. Okay, unless it is a moving of one existing plan. So for insured duties, you need to inform your client this is what they need to do. Provide evidence of the cause of loss. Who actually watched it? Who witnessed the loss? And give us the circumstances of the loss. If it's in the language, it's called Bangladesh. You give us Bangladesh language, also now we can translate it in English. Okay. But the important thing is all this must be written down in the statement. So the witness statements must be taken down. Provide evidence of loss and estimate value of the damaged item. This must be substantiated. Otherwise, how to pay you how much. Okay. And also whether the insured take reasonable precaution to prevent further losses. This is excellent. Sometimes we must pay additional claim for loss mitigations due to the loss. So you have prevented further losses, then we'll pay for that additional cost. And if you hold a third party, that there are third party involved, then we will just make a note, set a reserve first, and waiting for them to send any flyers to us. If there's nothing reported to us, we just leave it like that. And of course, there are any witnesses I mentioned to you, you just submit to us, and then we will do an interview with the person concerned. Assist and cooperate with the claim representative and also the appointed loss adjuster. You'll be surprised most of the claim have been delayed, not because of the loss adjuster, because we have many files on our table. So we just put it one side. Whichever come first, document come first, we attend whichever, like that. You see, because as loss adjuster, we want to close file also. When we close file, we get our fees. And when we close file, the claim can be paid. But unfortunately, we don't get assistance from the insured, and we don't get assistance from the brokers as well as the agent. That's the reason why the delay. And the other time is that we sometimes cannot get the engineers at all because they're called non-resident engineer. If resident engineer, no problem, we can look for the guys immediately. But they are moving everywhere. Sometimes they handle about 3-4 projects at any one time. Some in Sabah, some in Sarawak, some in KL, some in Sabah. Again, So a lot of these things happen, and we find it absolutely difficult to deal with them. We just leave the file one side. And every quarter, we will see the insurance explain to them, hey, Tylo, work in progress, Tamil, cannot close, cannot close. That's it. Put it one side. So the role of excellent loss adjuster basically is to suggest risk improvements to prevent recurrence of a similar incident. Not every loss adjuster will do this role. Usually, these are called value added. Okay. Establish the liability of the insurance, whether it's payable or not payable. If we are caught in a situation, what we do is we are always a meeting with the insurers and explain to them what's the problem. Okay. Likewise, when I was an insurance also, I will explain to them, I want to see you. They don't see the claims person. They see the underwriters. And we say, we are the one who draft the policy. We are the one who do the survey. We are the one actually talking to the agents. Then what you want, So that's what we agree how it is to be done. So it's better to get the marketers, underwriters, rather than just the claims alone. So they can resolve it much faster. Okay. Then the other thing is we have to agree on the quantum. Now, the quantum is a dispute usually because they cannot substantiate. So the thing is that we always give the benefit of what you have substantiated, we will pay according to what is prima facie shown to us. Okay. And usually in investigations, the positive recovery actions from third party is very remote. So most of the time we cannot get it. And if we know who is the third party, then we of course we will pursue. Okay. The role of the loss adjuster basically is to discuss and interpret the policy wording. And as you know, the loss adjuster do not attend my class, they do not know. So usually they attend my class when I'm teaching AII. Okay, some of them will come ask me to go to their office to teach them. So basically the policy wording is actually we draft the policy wording assuming. So how does the loss adjuster interpret? Very differently. So we have to endorse and ensure that being the case. So we do not just give the policy, we give all the endorsement at the same time when there's a claim, because endorsement will supersede the policy wording, right? So therefore we must highlight to them. But most of the claims department, they don't do that. They just send the policy wording, send the endorsement, that's it really. Sometimes they don't send endorsement also, just give you the policy wording, schedule, full stop. Then you make your life more tougher. Then for us to determine the approximate cost as a loss adjuster is very tough. So therefore, I mentioned to you, most of them are non-engineers. Even the engineers, they call themselves, they study engineering, they're non-engineers. They have to get the professional engineers to be around because they want to get them to do the calculations. If the calculation is confirmed, then of course, then we can fight the case. Otherwise, we say this claim payable. And most of the time, the loss adjuster will be discussing with claims department many occasions. Then the other thing, we have any condition which have failed to comply with, they have to raise it up to the insurance claims department. And then, of course, if there's a claim that we can pay for payment of account means the claim is liable, but they ask for money now first because of don't know how long if this claim will be settled. Then we may recommend it to the loss adjuster, and loss adjuster, after going through the file, may also recommend settlement on payment on account, means a percentage of it, not the full amount. So as you know, the role of professional engineer is very, very important for us. The moment, the first time when we hit the claims, I saw a retaining wall bangkok in the middle. And in the middle, we walk, wow, all the soil move inside and flow to the third party. And the third party is everywhere. So the first thing I do is I ask my boss, hey, what should I do? Oh, call the IR, this IR, Mr. Tan. I called IR Tan, and he came. Immediately, we will discuss with the engineers or contractors, ask for his drawings, ask for the calculations, and so forth. And after talking to him for a while, immediately the engineer will say, sorry, I think we will withdraw this claim. Okay, he will withdraw this claim. Why withdraw this claim? Because he know that he have actually under-provided the design. So that's why it is failed. There's no such thing, and you design anything, it fails while you're under construction. A simple man will tell you, a designer, a building will not collapse. No, correct? Anything that collapses is called 偷工減料. Okay, they call it. So there's no such thing. Because when we do it, we use what they call a factor of safety, which is 1:2 or 1:3. You must remember there's a dead load and live load. Dead load means that's the building. But when you put person inside, put the material inside, put the plant machinery inside, and all those material, then how? That become a live load. So we have to count for more. So if the factor of safety is 1 is less than 1, the building sure collapse 1. The retaining wall sure collapse 1. So always we ask them to calculate 1 is to more than 1. Preferably 1:2. 1:2 means very, very expensive. No? So these are some of the things that we highlighted to them. So the professional engineer usually have a conduct test at site on the column to see the integrity of the piling. They test at random and see whether the determining of the root cause of the incident. And the PE will do the mathematical calculation analysis back in the office. And in the report, they must make sure that they justify, because they can be also been challenged by another PE appointed by the insured. So loss adjuster will usually extract the PE report and then put the extract into, they don't lock, stock, and barrel, the hand to report. They must put inside the loss adjuster report. So when the claims person read the report, it shows that these guys have also consulted the PE. And we will pay for the PE for fees also. So in event of dispute, the PE can stand in court. So this person is a very powerful guy, because we must make sure when we pay him money, he must be able to stand in court and fight due to his expertise. And his conclusion must be final, because people will get another engineer and fight with him. He will say, Mr. IR, you are no use lah. And that came directly from Tenaga Nasional Berhad. Your engineer, no use lah, because he doesn't know hydraulic or hydrostatic. He doesn't know fluid mechanic lah. I'm talking. I say, you know fluid mechanic. I study fluid mechanic also. But you must actually see where we are wrong. So I granted them 6 months. You go and get your engineer, then we fight with my engineer lah. 5 months also they cannot get an engineer, because which means to say that the engineers that we employ is actually fantastic. Okay, so in larger claims, PE report can be useful to conclude the claim. And if you cannot get something useful and the PE confirm that you cannot find out anything, we will pay the claim straight away. Okay, so generally we had to satisfy the reinsurers, because the reinsurers will pay the lion's share. And the fees that the insurers pay, I cannot tell you, because it's a scale. The higher the claim, the smaller the scale. Okay, the smaller the claim, the higher the scale, isn't it? It's very fair, isn't it? So it's just like con loss. Most of the 5 con loss claims, the loss adjuster will laugh to the bank, because they charge a very small percentage, but it's very, very much. It could be million usually. Okay, so insurers will pay LF fees and PE consultant charges. The latter will require the insurance written consent. Okay, usually that is not easy. So the latter means the insurance company will have to make sure that they pay the LF fees as well as the PE fees. Usually must get the consent first before the insurers undertake to get a professional engineer. Not every case we get a PE. Those run of the mill we actually can pay off, we don't engage. Only when they involve with designer risk, resultant damage, workmanship, faulty design, and all those we will come in. So basically, we also engage as lawyers, because you 6 years time frame, and we have seen one claim when I was a professional is that 6 years plus 6 years. Okay, they ask for more. So what can I do? So I extend another 6 months, 6 years. So generally, the appointment of legal advisors involved are usually third-party bodily injury, third-party property damage. Then we engages them. The appointment is actually necessary because we not ensure all evidence are made available to the legal person to strategize in their defense. And you must remember there's a limitation act of 6 years. Although the policy put there 1 year, is 6 years. Amicable settlement, if possible, we go through the FMOS, Financial Market Ombudsman Services first. If that cannot be settled, then only go for arbitration or court. And the jurisdiction here is always in Malaysia, meaning that we pay it in the currency of Malaysian ringgit. All right. So claim issues, basically I put there A to I. So let's run through very quickly. You can see that condition 3 to 9 are all refers to claim. All this. So when you go back to your policy, CR, you check for yourself. All these are the standard. You will get these slides. Then for personal responsible, you find that most of these insurers were assigned in-house or engage external. Because engineering, none of the insurers in the market are able to handle. Not one. I cannot see one insurance company that can handle engineering insurance claim at all. They will always get a professional loss adjuster. Usually these are engineers. Okay, so the leading insurers will always ask for them to be informed from time to time. So we have the right to them from case to case every time. And underwriters may be contacted from time to time to seek on the advice on policy terms, conditions, because they don't know one. Okay, so sometimes you draft the wording, it can be a layman. Okay, and also policy wording endorsement. So if we draft the wording, we must make sure it's actually been checked by our legal advisors. Otherwise, sometimes no meaning one. Okay, so the other thing is I mentioned here, claims will be required investigations. So the loss adjuster usually will be reach out, read this document, site investigation, and so forth. So the first thing the insurance will do is we want to get that advice. So the loss adjuster will give the first item called immediate advice. And usually this is given in 1 day. The result can be very high. But of course, it will be moderated down over time now. Then we give them a subsequent documents. So subsequent documents will be, we give them what we call a preliminary loss advice. And all this actually we have to refer back to what are the things that we require. And we source it out. So why I'm writing so much for you is because I want you to reflect back in case when they come to claims, you can check back. You find that from time to time, number 6, we'll talk about claims periodically changes. We will write one very blown up called PLA, preliminary loss advice. And any changes, we just need to amend there only. Otherwise, the same. And you find that also we always keep in touch with the reinsurance company. Why? Cash call. When you want money, it's not I pay, But Jaya will not be paying the claim. Do you know that? It's the cash call. They must pay us, then we pass the money to you. And the time frame cash call is 30 days. Okay. For those smaller one, it's 14 days. It all depends. Cash call means you hit more than 1 million. That's called cash call. Okay. So coming to arbitration, I mentioned to you just now, it's just to sum up for you, is that although arbitration should be a textbook stuff, it must be dispute of the quantum. Nowadays, no. Even the claims repudiated like KL118, they also fight, in arbitrations. Okay, just to let you know. It is very, very expensive because the law suggester is, sorry, the lawyer will not be involved in the arbitration. The lawyer that we engages is just put one side. We have to engage another person called arbitrators. And then the insurer is not happy with this arbitrator. The insurer also engage one arbitrator. And then the two arbitrators cannot come face to face. And then engage a third arbitrator called the umpire. So in short, there are 3 persons talking to each other in the room. And this is done private. And the cost is very high. Usually it will last for about 14 days to finish the arbitration. But the time to get the documents together, ding dong, and get the dates is about 2 years. Okay, just think about that. So in case whoever lost the arbitrations, the legal fees will be borne by the losing company. Say, for example, if the insured lose the case and the insurer won the case, all the legal fees which we incurred by the insurance company will pass 100% to the insured. That's what it means. Okay. So for repudiation of claims, usually we have to check very carefully before we repudiate. So we have to say every claim are payable. Just remember, as an agent, all the claims that you submit to insurance company are all payable one. The only thing why we don't pay is because the claim is excluded. The claim is not payable because it's within the excess. The claim is not payable because of late notification of loss. The claim is not payable because you did not exercise due diligence or whatever, something like that. So usually all claims are payable. So when very complicated comes around, we sometimes get involved, the engineers, the insured party, the agents, the brokers involved, and everyone involved. Because we don't want it to be something that we just close a file, because we don't want to go to have a bad, what they call bad reputation. Most of the cases, these are performed on a professional basis. Insurers will normally need to inform the position and based on finding before we issue a letter. You will not get a letter of reputation suddenly. Why you got repudiate the claim? No such thing one. Usually we already get in touch with the agents, get in touch with the insured before we repudiate. And that has been the case. So you don't get any surprises from the insurance company. Okay. Coming to claims document, you see there are plenty of them. And why the claim form is necessary? Because Bank Negara wants to see the claim form. At random, Bank Negara will ask for claim form. Mana itu? Chop and sign? Who? Because there are many fraudulent claims in the past. So Bank Negara will pick at random. And for larger claims, they'll definitely go for it. And the other thing is, many of these theft claims I mentioned to you, we will just inform if there's a fraudulent claim. The first thing before we reject a claim, the first thing we do is we create a second file, exactly one, duplicated, and send it directly to Bank Negara and inform that this is a fraudulent claim, blah, 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 and all that. Then he have been kept informed like that. Okay. So we also make sure that all this information like statement of witnesses, bill of quantities, design, everything is semua masuk dalam, including the construction, the BQ, method statement, or from the start until the end is all inside one. Okay. So this is how we actually put across to them. And sometimes the progress of work report will be required, the lab survey report is required, and so forth. It's not that we want, because we want to compile it nicely for larger claim. For smaller claim, we don't ask for all this. Okay. Very straightforward. And usually they need to extend these claims to the professional re. Why? Because of the $1 million claim, cash call. The cash call means they have to send us, cannot say no. The reinsurers must pay us within the 30 days. We don't care how, no. Because when we say it's payable and you recognize it's payable, then you have to pay, Okay. Usually if we follow two type report, what's called interim report, which is payable claim, or the final report, pay everything. Okay. And whenever there's a reserve movement, we also intimate the reinsurers at the same time. So generally, all reports that we have seen, all the documents that we receive from time to time, we will escalate it to the reinsurers. So we have all this. Okay, so most of the time, we do not have any issues with reinsurance recovery. And coming to technical reports, usually the reinsurers are the one who design the technical report coming from them. But unfortunately, nowadays, I mentioned to you, we do not know whether payable or not. So, for example, the K11, we have these claims referring to damage or defects. It went into UK to fight in arbitrations, not small claim. If I lose the claim, it would be 250 million. If I win the claim, it's zero because we have rejected the claim. So many a times when we reject, it's because of damaged design, bad workmanship, inherent defects, loss structure because the client thinks it's a loss. Have you seen a claim like this? This I don't mention the name. The whole floor is defective. And I went there and see wet, dry, wet, 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 dry, dry, wet. Upper floor, wet, dry, 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 wet. Don't know what is it. So the contractor say, Peter, can you make this? It's payable, no? It's payable, isn't it? Because now I hand over the property to a third party. Now they take over the warehouse and now let it out. No? And before they let it out, they put epoxy on top because wet, dry, wet, dry. No? How much does this cost? 10 million ringgit. No? Payable or not? The insurer asked me to come and see you now. So I'm representing now insurer to tell you that this is not payable. But you don't believe me, then you can engage another third party to get it done deal. Okay? So I travel all the way to Johor just to help my friend who working in insurance company. So sometimes they need these people to be reminded. And when I go backwards, I realize that this similar client, I don't mention name, is having the similar type of losses in the past, and they try their trick again to claim from this insurance company. Okay? So this is the last one, practical consideration for you agent. 4 points only. But basically information for needed quotation, you just don't aga. Okay, I cannot show you everything. So I just give you something like this. Know the contractor. Know the contractor means you must know who they are talking to, the experience, the contract, experience, resume. Like for example, you ask my contract, Peter Young, you're engineer, for example, you're insurance. Can you send me your resume? My resume will be about 10 pages now. Okay, but I cannot give you 10 pages. Give you 10 pages, you fall asleep already. I only send you 1.5 a page only. Full stop, isn't it? So this is what we wanted, because we want the contractor to tell what you can do, what are the experience done for this type of job. For example, the job is building a bridge crossing from here to Sumatra. Can you do that? No? The answer yes. If yes, show me your resume. I'm referring to that type of jobs. Okay, everything can be done one. You can do piling in the sea. Do you know that? We use Kazon, Momantai, but more expensive. Okay, so you need to look at the historical records of this client, what method they use. So therefore, we cannot just say the contractor no good, but we must say, contractor, do you engage an engineer who have the knowledge? Contractor just do the work only. They don't need to be good. They only need to follow what the engineer tell them to do, because engineer calculate. No? The other thing is we also do the classification of trade. So I think what's called the scope of work, method of work, subcontractor, and things like that. Most of the time, they have claims because they subcontract out. And the breakdown values, all this must be given to us. We just don't say, "Hey, I want to do a job, 100 million, but no breakdown." Do you want to do a? If those guys no breakdown, definitely we just kick them out already. We don't want to engage at all. Okay. And the guys who say, "I'm Alibaba, I want to do this job, I want to jump in job." Then I say, "Okay, Alibaba, fine. Who is your contractor?" Or the contractor called Mr. Chong. Then I look for Mr. Chong and they discuss with him like that. No? And sometimes the contractor from Singapore all the way fly over just to see me because they're building the Taman Maruri, the Taman Maruri substation. No, Taman Maruri, those, what do you call that? That station where you take your MRT. So I went and he came down and see me, and we discussed solid half a day, just to know what he's doing, because my rate is very high. If you want to do it, this is my rate, Motor King. After he convinced me that he have done MRT in Singapore, blah blah blah, and this method, blah blah blah, then we go ahead, and I reduce the rate tremendously. So plan and drawings we need to know, because from sideways, northway, and so forth. Okay, I'm not going to give you all this detail because we just give you a flavor only. Okay, so basically specific drawing is we have to see from the top, called plan drawing, side views. If you're going to the hill, I have told the graphical drawings, and drawings from the shape that you want, not anything. So here, just to give you an idea that when you do that, you can see all these 8 items. And then we also ask for S-curve, Gantt chart, and work program. These are what you call the time program. Okay, like the KL118 actually have about 6,500 workers at any one time. 6,500 workers at any one time. I'm just telling you, okay, they were actually at a time running about 60% completion. Okay, so then we asked for the Gantt chart book program. They were very late, very slow. So what to do? Letter award. So letter award is important because we just make sure that you are the one who got it and you are the one who can do the job. And now we issue a policy. Because sometimes or other we get brokers who actually suddenly say, I got a job. In fact, the job say is you are supposed to go and get quotation on it. You didn't get appointment yet. No. So the agents is fighting with this broker. Then my agent say, how? Of course, they are not got the job yet. So therefore, I must be very careful, making sure that you also quote to the agent as well quote to the broker the same term. Nanti we quote different term, we have a date sheet, So we need to look at the letter award and whether the job referring to this. Sometimes they use the same letter award for subcontractor work, which I say, no. You better give me the job that I actually do. And it's called phase one, blah, 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 like that. Okay. Method statement is how you do the spire, for example. So they give you the sequences. Is it doing by what? Lifting by helicopter, by hydraulic system, or how you do it? Or you joining it upward? I don't know. So finally, they gave me the method. It's called hydraulic system. And they gave me all in a PDF. Okay, we discussed this over the site visits. So the site visit is very important because we need to know more. When we do a survey, 80 to 90% of my time is just talking to them like that. Okay, the others is all basically just walk to make sure and confirm. Okay, then we also ask for letter awards, appendixes, and so forth to attach to it. And also when you can see the condition of contract, I just want to show it to you. This is a standard condition they ask for. You find that cross liability clause number X, number 10, that's 10. Then they ask for number 4, increased value, extended maintenance. Who teach them one? Must be some of you guys, either agent brokers or even direct insurers. So they have all this. Okay, so all these things they have already. So when Mid Valley came to me and when issue on the operational risk, after we have secured the Mid Valley, then now they build the gardens. What I do? They asked me to give teaching again. So I had to teach them 3 solid years on all the operational risks as well as CAR. You see, no wonder they are so good. So the other thing is you find that the appendix, they put there 19.1. These are following what they call the pump. And they put there 5 million. You cannot change. The moment they put 5 million, we have to follow. And here they put that excess 25,000. I cannot change. I want to put high access to Tapole. And that's what happened to West Coast Expressway. Okay. And then the percentage for this so-called professional fees, 10%. Remote debris, 5% of what? Contract value. Principal existing property, nil. Okay, just to highlight to you that how they do it. So basically to market their cost is not so easy. I just mentioned to you, you need to look at who are those more proficient contractors. The more proficient contractors have the most number of claims. They call themselves G6 and G7. So usually they get the head of marketing, underwriters involved because these are usually mega projects. For those G1, G2, you can close an eye also makan also dulu straight away, no need to see. For G3, G4, G5, good. They are all simple renovation job, subcontractor job. But it all depends on how extensive your exposure is. Usually the agents you are doing most of the time is G1 to G5. You get any G6 to G7, you are fatalo, because most of the time I deal with those G6, G7 is I go directly or I go through a brokers. And sometimes you're surprised that it's an agent. For Eco World, those I support all Eco World are actually coming from an agent. Okay. And I don't know see her face first. Never see the face one. But I just support for them. So basically the key selling point is that you need to look at the type of risk for the insurance book. Usually they have the channel. Yours is the agent. Understand the company risk appetite. Berjaya risk appetite. Understand the insurance underwriting capacity. Understand that they have to identify reinsurance capacity. Underwriting authorities, isn't it? And also the turnaround time for indicative quote and definite quote. So usually I can't give you the quote because the information are 6:30. That's the reason. So the moment they have more information, it's easier. And the other thing is that make sure they have no clash of distribution channel. Nanti banker assurance code, agent also code, branches also code, brokers departments also code, then 4 code already. Then Berjaya give you 4 code. What do you think? So that's why it's not so straightforward. So must imagine for some projects they have to connect. The best way to connect is use system. The moment you inform me, I clock in, code the system, then they can pop out all quoted by another agent. Different, right? So the other thing is risk engineering survey actually is nothing wrong to do a survey. Survey means just go and see the client. It doesn't mean a person that is an engineer, no need one. Okay, just to make sure that you understand how the contract value is made up of, get the complement balik, get the PL limits, make sure you have any principal surrounding property or not. Then of course you can put a panel loss adjuster there. Make sure that at least are not really limited to one loss adjuster, because Bank Negara don't allow one loss adjuster. You must have a panel. And the other thing is the last part is underwriting guideline for the marketers. You need to be mindful that most of the businesses, most of your insurance underwriter write a very small share. Although they can say I write 100 million, which I did, I write 200 million without closing an eyes one. But in fact, most of them go to the reinsurance. I got the facilities already in place. When I sign down, it's actually signed on their behalf. Whatever Peter signed, I will follow like that. How to find? I'm talking as talking for you as I'm talking to an insurer who is giving me the facility. Okay, so that is really real life. So when handling this objection, now I come to claims and also in quotations. Basically, you don't have to worry. Usually, the customers, we always reply to them within 1 to 3 days. For even more complicated risks, also within 3 days. Usually, you try to assist them by getting a marketer to follow alongside and see them. Usually, I think most of the agents that you are doing are usually G1 to G5 cases. What do you mean by G1? G1 are those contract values smaller. All you need to do is just go and quote Google and say contractor G1 to G7. What are those? G1 to G7, they tell you all the contract value. G7 is called unlimited. It's the sky, okay? Most of the time, you refer to the head of underwriting. That is your COO or Chief Agency Officer. So other issues, I think you'll be facing a problem with the lack of information, lack of documents, incorporate details and scope of work, method of piling not sure, road works, especially you cannot give us drawing. Let's say, for example, 10 kilometer work, I must have 10 kilometers drawing, and scale. And they call it 10 chainage. One chainage is 1 kilometers. If crossing rivers, must show us all the bridge. How is the bridge built? How many span and so forth. And most of the time today, you must remember all insurers today are not so lucky. They only get 72 months, construction period and maintenance period. When I was doing, I get 84 months. Okay, so they combine together. The contract value of works is usually very smallish and PL limit is usually 10 times. Don't do. Example, contract value is 1 million, PL is 10 million. Don't do, okay? Because insurers will just walk out because they know that this type of job is called demolishing work. Okay, so thank you for your support. If you have any questions, let's put inside the group chat and I'll discuss with you, or you prefer to unmute yourself, that's good. Because basically, I think it's very hard for me to just go through in 3 hours. But you want a flavor, I give you a flavor. But you want to join me, you can join me in AII, where you take you 6 days, okay? 2 days on the foundation, 2 days intermediate, and 2 days premier, up to you, okay? Or for this. But otherwise, you can join for those which is maybe a full day. If you happen to see my name, full day, then I will give you more things to see. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter. So everybody, that's a wrap for today's training. Thank you to Peter and thank you for everybody for staying throughout the session. I hope everyone has built some knowledge on DCAR. Hats off for that. So I know it's lunchtime, everybody. So before we say goodbye, I have 3 things just to share with you guys. If you have not known, the BSIB Agent Got Talent 2026 has just came out with a circular yesterday or maybe the day before about agents voting your voting your colleagues here. So I have seen some of the videos where agents has to, they send their acting videos, they send their dancing, their singing, superstar, all of our agents here. So voting is now